Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Pandora, the bioluminescent jewel of the Alpha Centauri system, has always been more than a world. It is a living consciousness, a planet that breathes, remembers, and reacts. In Avatar, Fire and Ash, James Cameron draws us back into this mesmerizing realm not merely to revisit its beauty, but to witness the scars left behind by war and the rebirth of new battles that ignite from the remnants of the old. The return to Pandora is not a simple continuation. It is a collision of evolution and destruction, of rebirth and reckoning. As the story unfolds, the Na'vi and their world are caught between two elemental forces, the cleansing fire of renewal and the suffocating ash of decay. From the very first frame, the visual tone of Pandora feels different. The once tranquil floating mountains of Hallelujah, glowing with ancestral energy, now bear the subtle marks of industrial smoke drifting from faraway regions, a haunting symbol of humanity's return. The skies are dimmer, the forest quieter, and even the great tree of souls seems to whisper in warning rather than harmony. The camera sweeps across landscapes scarred by burning, where vines that once shimmered with blue light are now streaked with the gray fingerprints of ash. It's a visual poem of loss and resilience, a reminder that beauty on Pandora is always intertwined with danger. Fire in this narrative is both an enemy and a purifier, while ash serves as both memory and prophecy. Jake Sully, once the outsider who became one with the Na'vi, returns to the forefront of this new era. The years since the Way of Water have changed him profoundly. He is no longer just a warrior or a father. He has become the symbol of resistance, a living legend to the Na'vi tribes and a persistent obstacle to the corporate hunger of humanity. His presence commands reverence but also tension. His leadership is rooted in experience yet shadowed by guilt. He knows that every victory on Pandora comes at a price. The ashes of fallen allies cling to his skin like silent witnesses. When Jake looks upon the fiery horizon, the audience sees a man who understands that peace on Pandora is as fragile as the breath of Awa herself. But Jake is not the same soldier we knew before. His voice carries the weariness of a man who has fought too many wars in too few years. His connection to Awa deepens as his human memories fade further into the mist of his Na'vi soul. Neytiri stands beside him, still fierce and graceful, but now more haunted. The fire that burns across Pandora mirrors the fury that still burns within her heart. Fury for the loss of their son, fury for the desecration of the land, fury for the endless cycle of human greed. Together they have built a fragile peace among the clans, yet both know that the fires of war are never truly extinguished. They merely sleep beneath the soil, waiting for oxygen. Cameron's return to Pandora is a masterclass in contrast. Where the Way of Water celebrated the fluid grace of the ocean and its healing serenity, Fire and Ash embraces the volatile heart of the volcano, unpredictable, violent, yet vital. The fire clans, newly introduced in this installment, live among lava fields and sulfur skies, their skin patterned in deeper reds and blacks, their culture shaped by survival in a world of constant upheaval. They are the children of chaos, the keepers of the flame, both literally and spiritually. To them, fire is sacred. It represents transformation, endurance, and the essence of life reborn from destruction. Their rituals, filled with rhythmic drumming and bursts of flame, become a visual metaphor for Pandora's own struggle to renew itself after human invasion. The arrival of the Sky People once again fractures this delicate balance. After years of silence, humanity returns, this time not merely for unobtainium but for something more primal, energy. The ashes of Earth's dying biosphere have pushed human civilization to the brink, and now, the corporate powers believe Pandora's volcanic energy cores may hold the key to reviving their homeworld. They come not as explorers, but as desperate colonizers cloaked in the illusion of necessity. Their ships descend like falling embers, their landing zones scorched into the landscape, their machinery devouring everything it touches. This time, the war for Pandora is not a battle of resources, but of survival, both for the Na'vi and for humanity. As the flames spread, so does division among the Na'vi themselves. Some clans, weary of endless conflict, begin to question whether continued resistance will only lead to extinction. Others see the encroaching fire as a divine test, a purification by Ewa herself. The fire clans believe that through fire the planet will renew its strength, burning away the corruption brought by man. Yet others, like the forest clans led by Neytiri's people, fear that fire is merely destruction disguised as destiny. This ideological conflict becomes one of the film's central emotional threads. The Na'vi are no longer united solely against humanity, but divided by their interpretations of Ewa's will. Cameron uses this division to explore deeper philosophical questions. Can a people survive without unity? And can a planet heal without sacrifice? The cinematography of Fire and Ash pushes boundaries once again. Every ember, every flicker of molten rock feels alive. The motion capture technology brings to life the Na'vi's reflections against flames that pulse like living entities. The balance of red, orange, and black hues dominates the visual palette, contrasting against the blues and greens of the Na'vi skin tones, creating a constant tension between warmth and life, heat and death. Cameron doesn't just show us fire. He makes us feel its rhythm, its heartbeat. When the Na'vi dance around volcanic craters in ritualistic unison, the sound of crackling flames blends seamlessly with their chants, symbolizing harmony between destruction and creation. Amid all this visual grandeur, the emotional depth remains the story's foundation. The return to Pandora is not only a physical journey, but a spiritual reckoning for every character. Kiri, the mysterious daughter of Grace Augustine, now stands at the center of this evolution. Her bond with Ewa has grown beyond comprehension. Through her visions, the audience glimpses the future of Pandora, burning forests, rising ash storms, and the faint whisper of a rebirth that demands sacrifice. Her connection with both human and Na'vi heritage becomes the bridge that might save Pandora, or doom it entirely. The question of identity, which began with Jake Sully's transformation, now finds new meaning in Kiri's dual nature. The title, Fire and Ash, encapsulates the essence of the movie's narrative arc. Fire represents the spark of defiance, the heat of passion, and the force of renewal. Ash, however, symbolizes memory, loss, and the remnants of what once was. Together, they define the cycle that both Pandora and humanity are trapped within. A cycle of creation through destruction. The film's tone is not one of despair, but of solemn hope. Cameron's storytelling evolves beyond environmental metaphor into something more existential. The idea that every civilization, every species, must face its own flames to be reborn from its ashes. The return to Pandora is therefore a mirror held up to humanity's own world, a reflection of our endless hunger and our fragile capacity for redemption. The pacing of Fire and Ash mirrors the slow build of a volcanic eruption. The tension simmers beneath the surface through the first half of the film, filled with whispers of impending war and political maneuvering among the clans. When the eruption finally comes, both literal and metaphorical, the release is explosive both visually and emotionally. Lava flows cascade through the jungles, igniting bioluminescent flora into a surreal firestorm of color. Amid the chaos, the Na'vi fight not just for survival but for meaning. What does it truly mean to belong to Pandora when Pandora itself seems to be burning? Through every scene, Cameron reminds the audience that Pandora is alive. The planet reacts to pain, fights back, and adapts. Firestorms erupt where human drilling occurs. Volcanic tremors answer the destruction of sacred sites. It's as though Ewa herself is manifesting through nature's fury, reclaiming what has been desecrated. The Na'vi see this as divine wrath, but Jake and Kiri begin to realize it's more complex. Pandora is trying to heal, and healing often demands destruction. This revelation reframes the entire conflict. Humanity is not simply the villain, but part of a larger cycle of evolution that even Ewa must embrace. In the film's quieter moments, the emotional resonance deepens. Jake and Neytiri share conversations by the dim glow of volcanic light, their silhouettes painted in orange and black. They speak not as heroes, but as parents who have lost too much. Their love has weathered fire before, yet it is tested again as their children grapple with the harshness of the world they inherited. These scenes ground the film in raw humanity, reminding us that even among alien landscapes and cosmic stakes, it is love, fierce, flawed, enduring, that defines survival. Ultimately, the return to Pandora is a story of contradictions, beauty and violence, faith and doubt, rebirth and ruin. The era of fire and conflict is not just about war, it is about transformation. By the film's end, as the volcanic storms subside and the ashes settle across the land, the audience realizes that Pandora has changed forever. It is no longer the untouched paradise we first discovered in 2009, nor the watery refuge of 2022. It has become something new, a world tempered by flame, scarred yet alive, carrying within its ashes the seeds of tomorrow. The legend of Jake Sully and Neytiri has long transcended their individual stories, becoming woven into the very mythology of Pandora itself. In Avatar, Fire and Ash, their legacy stands at the core of the film's emotional and philosophical heart. They are no longer merely warriors or leaders. They are living symbols of unity, sacrifice, and the fragile thread connecting the human spirit to the Na'vi soul. But as Pandora enters a new age defined by fire, their roles evolve once again. The couple who once fought to defend their family and their land now face the ultimate test, protecting a world divided not only by species, but by ideology, faith, and the scars of survival. From the opening moments of the film, the tone surrounding Jake and Neytiri is heavy with reverence and weariness. They are figures of legend, whispered about in the songs of the forest clans, prayed to in the rituals of the reef people, and studied in the tales told by the fiery tribes of the volcanic south. Their faces are etched into memory, their deeds immortalized in the glowing tendrils of the Tree of Voices. Yet behind this mythic status lies a deeper truth. Both have become prisoners of their own legend. Jake bears the weight of leadership that never seems to rest. Neytiri carries the unhealed pain of loss. Together, they have built a fragile peace, but it is a peace that trembles. Under the growing heat of war, Jake Sully's transformation, from a paralyzed human soldier to a Na'vi warrior and, finally, to the Olo Egtan chief of the Omaticaya, has always mirrored humanity's own struggle for redemption. In Fire and Ash, Cameron portrays him as a man who has learned that victory is not about winning battles, but about carrying the burden of consequence. His face, older and lined with silent grief, tells a story that words cannot. Jake has become what the Na'vi call a Cheikh Ewao, a warrior touched by the divine. His bond with Ewa is no longer mystical. It is existential. He feels the planet's pulse, its pain, its cycles of life and decay. This connection has transformed him from a fighter into a philosopher-warrior, one who questions the very nature of conflict. Every decision he makes ripples through Pandora like the tremor before an eruption. Neytiri, meanwhile, remains the fierce heart of the Na'vi. She is the embodiment of Pandora's wild beauty, unpredictable, untamed, and unbreakable. Yet time has not softened her spirit. It has only deepened her ferocity. The deaths of loved ones, especially of her son Netium, have carved new dimensions into her character. She is a mother still grieving, a warrior still burning. Her eyes, once filled with wonder, now hold the flame of vengeance and the ache of wisdom. Neytiri's journey in Fire and Ash reflects the soul of Pandora itself. Wounded yet defiant, scarred yet sacred. Her faith in Ewa remains unshaken, but her understanding of the goddess's will becomes more complex. Neytiri begins to see that Ewa's balance sometimes demands suffering, and that even destruction can serve creation. This evolution makes her both a prophet and a skeptic, a duality that defines much of the emotional tension between her and Jake. Together, Jake and Neytiri are more than partners. They are two halves of the same cosmic balance, where Jake seeks strategy and negotiation, Neytiri seeks instinct and spirit. He builds alliances through reason. She protects them through raw emotion. Their unity has always been their strength. Yet in Fire and Ash, that unity is threatened not by enemies but by ideals. As the Fire clans rise with their doctrine of purification through flame, and as some Na'vi grow tempted by human promises of progress, Jake and Neytiri find themselves on opposite sides of a philosophical divide. Jake believes coexistence might still be possible, that perhaps Pandora can find equilibrium between its natural order and humanity's desperation. Neytiri, on the other hand, sees no middle ground. She believes the humans must be erased completely for Ewa to heal. This conflict between love and ideology creates the emotional storm at the center of the film. Their children symbolize the legacy they are fighting to protect. Kiri, Loak, Tuk, and the adopted spider each represent fragments of their parents' dual worlds. Kiri, deeply spiritual and attuned to Ewa, carries Neytiri's reverence for life but also Jake's human curiosity. Loak, impulsive and brave, inherits Jake's stubborn courage and Neytiri's untamed spirit. Spider, the human boy raised among the Na'vi, becomes the embodiment of their greatest contradiction, the bridge between the race that destroys and the race that heals. Through their children, Jake and Neytiri's story becomes not just about survival but about legacy, about what kind of world they will leave behind when the fires die out. Their family is a microcosm of Pandora's divided heart. The film's middle act delves deeply into this generational tension. Jake struggles to lead while recognizing that the younger Na'vi no longer see the humans as simple invaders. Many of them have grown up hearing myths of Jake Sully, the sky demon turned Na'vi hero, but few have experienced the horrors of the First War. They are restless, idealistic, and easily swayed by the promises of unity. Neytiri, however, remembers. She remembers the burning forests, the slaughtered beasts, the children torn from their homes. Her rage is not rooted in hatred but in memory. When she warns that fire cannot be tamed, only survived, the audience feels the weight of her scars. The conflict between idealism and experience, between hope and trauma, fuels some of the most powerful scenes in Fire and Ash. Cameron's script uses the Sully family as a lens through which to explore the cost of leadership. Every victory Jake achieves comes with personal loss. Every compromise he makes chips away at Neytiri's trust. Yet despite the tension, their love remains unbreakable. Not in a romanticized way, but in a raw, human way that feels painfully real. There is a heartbreaking moment midway through the film where Jake, standing before a smoldering battlefield, whispers to Neytiri, "I keep fighting for peace, but all I find is fire." Her reply, "Then maybe fire is Awa's peace," encapsulates their entire philosophical divide. It's a dialogue that resonates long after the credits roll. A reminder that love between two warriors can endure even when their beliefs do not. Visually, their legacy is represented through the interplay of elements, fire and water, earth and sky. Jake, who once led the reef people, carries the calm, flowing energy of water. Neytiri, child of the forest, burns with the raw power of flame. Their love scenes are framed against these opposing backdrops. One surrounded by glowing embers, another under a waterfall illuminated by volcanic light. Each image speaks of unity and contrast, of harmony forged through difference. The camera captures not just their faces but the world around them reacting. Trees bending, embers swirling, Awa's light shimmering faintly through the air. Even Pandora itself seems to acknowledge their bond. The legacy of Jake and Neytiri also extends into how other clans perceive them. Some see them as saviors, others as symbols of imbalance. The Fire Clan's leader, a new character named Tikaran, reveres Neytiri's ferocity but questions Jake's compassion for humanity. He warns that Jake's divided soul will one day divide Pandora itself. This prophecy lingers throughout the film, foreshadowing a potential tragedy that could shatter the fragile alliances Jake has built. Yet, in the face of doubt, Jake's resilience defines him. He carries the guilt of a soldier and the wisdom of a leader who has learned that every choice costs something sacred. One of the most emotionally charged sequences in the movie occurs when Jake and Neytiri return to the ruins of Home Tree, the place where their journey began. The once mighty tree stands in skeletal form, its roots twisted and charred, still reaching skyward as if begging for forgiveness. There, Neytiri kneels in silence, touching the soil with trembling hands. Jake watches, unable to speak. The moment symbolizes not just their past but their burden, the knowledge that they can never truly restore what was lost. Yet in that silence there is also peace. Neytiri whispers a prayer to Awa, asking not for victory but for clarity. The camera lingers on Jake's face as he listens, torn between the soldier who wants to act and the soul who longs to understand. Throughout Fire and Ash, their legacy becomes a mirror reflecting humanity's own paradoxes. Jake, though Na'vi in body, remains haunted by his human instincts, the desire to control, to build, to conquer. Neytiri, though pure Na'vi, wrestles with the temptation of vengeance, the same darkness that once consumed humans. In this way, Cameron blurs the lines between species, suggesting that the battle is not between human and Na'vi, but between harmony and domination. Their love story, therefore, becomes an allegory for coexistence itself, a fragile dance between opposites that must either find balance or collapse into chaos. As the story progresses toward its climax, Jake and Neytiri's leadership is tested when the humans launch a coordinated assault on the volcanic region, the sacred land of the Fire Clans. The invasion ignites A chain reaction that threatens to destabilize Pandora's entire biosphere. In the chaos, Jake must choose between saving his people and saving his family. Neytiri, driven by rage, leads a counterattack that risks annihilating both sides. It is only through Kiri's intervention, guided by Awa's visions, that the truth emerges. The firestorms are not random destruction, but the planet's immune response, purging corruption. In Avatar: Fire and Ash, the emergence of the Ash clans marks one of the most transformative chapters in Pandora's ever-expanding mythology. These are not tribes born from the lush forests or the serene reefs, but forged in the heart of volcanic chaos. In lands where molten rivers carve through stone, and ash falls like eternal rain. Their rise signifies both a literal and symbolic shift in Pandora's ecosystem and social fabric. The Ash clans embody resilience, adaptation, and the untold truth that even in destruction, life persists. Through them, James Cameron reveals a side of Pandora we have never seen before, one defined by fire, smoke, and survival, where the cycle of life and death burns with unrelenting intensity. The first glimpse of the Ash clans comes early in the film, as the camera glides over volcanic plains glowing with embers, painting a world unlike any version of Pandora we've known. The land trembles beneath the constant heartbeat of the planet. Magma veins pulse with orange light beneath the blackened surface, and geysers of steam burst sporadically into the air, creating a rhythm that feels alive, like the planet's own breathing. Amid this infernal beauty, the Ash clans thrive. Their skin, darker than the Omatakaya's and streaked with glowing red bioluminescent markings, reflects their fiery homeland. Their eyes shimmer with gold, and their attire, made from heat-resistant materials woven with hardened volcanic fibers, tells of a people who have adapted to fire's embrace rather than fled from it. Unlike other Na'vi, who see fire as a force of danger, the Ash clans regard it as sacred. To them, fire is Awa's breath, a living spirit that both destroys and renews. Their creation myth speaks of a time when Awa wept tears of flame upon Pandora to cleanse it of corruption. From those flames, the first of their kind rose, not from the forest or ocean, but from molten stone. This myth defines their worldview. Destruction is not an end, but a beginning. It is this belief that shapes their every action, and it becomes the foundation of the new alliances that form as war once again looms over Pandora. The Ash clans are led by Chief Takoran, a formidable figure whose presence commands reverence. His skin is scarred by burns that he wears as marks of honor, each one representing a victory over adversity. Takoran is not a warlord but a philosopher of flame. His leadership philosophy revolves around the concept of Vairana, meaning rebirth through trial. He believes that both Na'vi and humans are bound by the same law, to endure pain before achieving harmony. This doctrine makes him both a potential ally and a dangerous idealist in Jake Sully's eyes. Takoran's people, though fierce, do not seek conquest. They seek purpose. Yet their methods, embracing fire as a tool of balance, risk igniting Pandora's most catastrophic war. When Jake and Neytiri first encounter the Ash clans, it is under the shadow of misunderstanding. Jake comes seeking unity, but Takoran greets him with skepticism. To the Ash clans, the Omaticaya and the Reef people are children of comfort, unfamiliar with true suffering. They see the others as fragile, dependent on the gentler gifts of Awa. You have seen the forest burn, Takoran tells Jake, but you have never stood inside the fire. This statement captures the divide between the Na'vi tribes, a division rooted not in hatred, but in different understandings of strength. Yet as the humans return with new technologies and renewed aggression, these ideological differences must yield to necessity. The Ash clans, with their knowledge of volcanic terrain and mastery of heat-based weaponry, become the key to Pandora's survival. Cameron uses the Ash clan's rise to explore one of the film's central themes, adaptation as evolution. Just as Jake once adapted from human to Na'vi, Pandora itself continues to evolve in response to human interference. The Ash clans are living proof of Awa's adaptability. Their bond with the environment is unlike anything seen before. They communicate with creatures of fire, massive lava-dwelling beasts known as Scaran, whose scales shimmer like obsidian and whose breath glows like molten metal. These creatures are both terrifying and majestic, serving as mounts, guardians, and spiritual symbols. When they move through the volcanic plains, their bodies illuminate the darkness like living comets. The bond between Ryder and Skaran mirrors the Na'vi connection to their Ikran, but it is forged through endurance and shared pain. Each rider must endure a trial by flame to earn the creature's trust. The introduction of these new life forms expands the mythology of Pandora's ecosystem. Fire, once portrayed solely as a destructive force, becomes an essential element of balance. The Ash clans live symbiotically with these creatures, harnessing geothermal vents and volcanic energy to forge tools, weapons, and sacred artifacts. Their technology is primitive yet ingenious. Bone and stone infused with crystallized minerals harvested from lava flows, creating weapons that shimmer with heat and glow faintly even in darkness. Every weapon they craft is a prayer, every forge a temple. Their chants echo through the canyons as they shape molten rock, blending spirituality and survival into one seamless ritual. As Jake learns more about them, he begins to see that the Ash clans represent a truth he has long resisted, that survival often demands transformation, and peace sometimes requires fire. Yet his growing respect for them is met with resistance from other Na'vi leaders. Neytiri, still haunted by her people's losses, mistrusts the Ash clan's philosophy. She fears that their reverence for destruction could invite another catastrophe. Fire does not choose what it burns, she warns. It devours all. This ideological clash mirrors the tension between preservation and evolution, tradition and progress. Cameron uses these debates not merely as exposition, but as moral mirrors for the audience, asking whether balance can exist without change, and whether change can exist without loss. When the humans strike again, targeting the volcanic regions for their rich geothermal energy, the Ash clans become the first line of defense. Their intimate knowledge of the terrain allows them to wage guerrilla warfare. Unlike anything the humans have faced before, they manipulate heat vents to create natural traps, lure gunships into ash clouds that disrupt sensors, and summon molten avalanches by breaking the crust of lava chambers. Their tactics are brutal yet poetic. Nature itself becomes their weapon. The humans, despite their technological superiority, find themselves blinded and overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of Pandora's wrath. These sequences stand among the film's most visually breathtaking moments. Rivers of lava reflecting against bioluminescent skies, explosions merging with volcanic eruptions, creating a dance of destruction that feels both horrifying and beautiful. Through their struggle, the Ash clans begin to reshape Pandora's political landscape. Their rise forces other tribes to reconsider long-held beliefs. Where the forest and reef clans once viewed fire as taboo, they now see its necessity. Alliances that once seemed impossible begin to form. Takoran and Jake, initially adversaries, develop a bond founded on mutual respect. Both understand that leadership is not about control but about carrying the flame of responsibility. In one of the film's most powerful exchanges, Takoran tells Jake, "You see fire as something to fight. We see it as something to follow. It burns a path, not to destroy, but to lead." This sentiment becomes the philosophical backbone of the alliance that ultimately unites the Na'vi against humanity's renewed assault, the Ash clans. Culture also introduces new forms of spirituality into Pandora's mythology. Their connection to Awa is not serene or harmonious but fierce and cyclical. They believe Awa speaks through eruption, that each explosion is a heartbeat, each ash storm a cleansing breath. Their rituals are performed at the edge of lava flows, where the air trembles with heat and danger. During one pivotal ceremony, Kiri experiences a vision through their sacred flame pools, seeing Awa's essence not as the soft blue light she once knew, but as a swirling inferno of red and gold. This revelation bridges the gap between the Na'vi clan's interpretations of Awa, uniting fire and water, destruction and healing, into a single divine balance. It is through the Ash clans that Kiri's understanding of Pandora, and her role as its spiritual bridge, deepens. Cameron's visual storytelling shines brightest in these moments. The interplay between shadow and flame creates a cinematic landscape unlike anything previously seen in the Avatar universe. The ash storms swirl like living spirits and the heat distortions blur the lines between reality and vision. The color palette transitions from cool blues to searing oranges and deep blacks, creating a sense of otherworldly tension. Yet amid all this chaos there is beauty. Bioluminescent fungi that glow through the ash, plants that bloom in the aftermath of eruptions, showing nature's eternal resilience. The Ash Clan's home, though hostile, becomes a metaphor for endurance itself, a place where life refuses to surrender. As the story progresses, the Ash Clans begin to influence even the humans. Some human scientists, trapped and left behind after failed missions, are rescued by them. Witnessing the clan's way of life challenges their understanding of nature and morality. One such character, Dr. Marin, a geologist once loyal to the RDA, becomes a key figure in bridging science and spirituality. Through her perspective, we see how the Ash Clan's belief in fire as a creative force mirrors certain truths about planetary evolution. Pandora has always been portrayed as a world of vibrant harmony, a place where every creature, every tree, and even every breath of wind seems interconnected through the pulse of Awa. But in Avatar, Fire and Ash, that harmony begins to collapse under the weight of destruction. The movie opens a new chapter in the mythology of Pandora, one where beauty and balance give way to chaos and ruin. Fire becomes the new symbol of war, consuming the lush jungles, rivers, and floating mountains that once defined the world's serenity. What was once a paradise of glowing forests and living symbiosis now stands at the brink of environmental annihilation. This transition marks one of the most striking thematic evolutions in the Avatar saga. The fall of nature at the hands of greed, vengeance, and unchecked technological domination. As the narrative unfolds, audiences witness Pandora like never before, scorched and scarred. Volcanoes erupt, spewing rivers of molten rock across ancient forests, wiping away sacred Na'vi sites and ancestral homes. The once brilliant flora of bioluminescent life flickers out, replaced by clouds of ash that darken the skies. The destruction isn't just physical, it's spiritual. The Na'vi, who once drew strength and unity from the natural balance of their planet, now face a crisis that shakes their faith in Awa herself. The sacred link between the people and their goddess feels broken, and in that absence, despair begins to take root. James Cameron's storytelling doesn't just show destruction, it makes the audience feel it. The sound of trees cracking, the sight of animals fleeing through smoke, and the distant screams of burning land all combine to create a cinematic experience that feels devastatingly real. The humans, the Sky People, play a major role in this desecration. Their new wave of colonization comes with machines that burrow, burn, and consume. The corporate exploitation that began in the first film has evolved into full-scale terraforming, turning Pandora's delicate ecosystems into fuel for war. But the brilliance of Cameron's vision lies in his refusal to portray the humans as purely evil. Instead, he shows how desperation, survival, and ambition blur moral lines. Some humans, motivated by the fear of Earth's collapse, genuinely believe that Pandora's resources can save their dying home. Yet their actions, industrial fires, deforestation, mining explosions, ignite the very apocalypse they seek to prevent. Pandora becomes a mirror for humanity's self-destruction, a reflection of how greed and technological arrogance can destroy the natural order of any world. Jake Sully, Neytiri, and their children find themselves at the heart of this devastation. Their clan becomes both witness and victim to the environmental collapse. They watch as the sacred home tree territory and surrounding jungles turn to ashes. Neytiri's pain, in particular, symbolizes the heartbreak of an entire people losing their connection to life itself. Her tears over the fallen trees and dying animals embody a grief that transcends species. It's the mourning of a world betrayed by its supposed guardians. Through her, Fire and Ash gives a voice to nature itself. The Na'vi chants, mourning songs, and rituals that follow the destruction serve as emotional eulogies for the lost lands, turning the movie into a requiem for Pandora. Visually, the film transforms destruction into haunting beauty. The cinematography captures burning forests under blood-red skies, rivers glowing with molten reflections, and silhouettes of Na'vi warriors standing amidst embers. Each frame feels like a painting of tragedy and defiance. Cameron uses advanced visual effects not only to depict chaos but to contrast what was once harmonious. The glowing blues and greens of the Way of Water give way to fiery oranges and crimson reds, a deliberate color shift symbolizing the fall from grace. The music, composed by Simon Franklin, amplifies this transition with sorrowful orchestral notes mixed with tribal drums that beat like a dying heart. Every sensory element, from sound to color, reinforces the theme that Pandora itself is bleeding. Amidst the destruction, there's a deeper philosophical question burning beneath the surface. Can nature forgive? Can a world so connected to spiritual balance ever heal from such devastation? The Na'vi begin to seek answers through their ancient traditions, turning inward to reconnect with Awa. But even Awa, the embodiment of life's unity, seems silent. This silence challenges their beliefs. Some Na'vi interpret the burning lands as punishment, a divine reckoning for their failure to protect the balance. Others see it as a test, a sign that they must evolve beyond their dependence on Awa's guidance. This spiritual conflict becomes a core emotional thread in Fire and Ash, setting it apart from previous films. It's not just about survival. It's about rediscovering identity in a world stripped of its natural sanctity. As Pandora burns, so too do the relationships between its inhabitants. Old alliances crumble as tribes fight for the last remaining fertile lands. The Ash clans, and born from this apocalypse, adapt to the flames, learning to live within the chaos rather than resisting it. Their very existence is a testament to evolution under pressure. They represent the harsh truth that life finds a way, even in destruction. But for Jake and Neytiri, this adaptation feels like surrender, a betrayal of everything they fought for. Their journey becomes a battle not only against humans but against the growing acceptance of destruction as the new normal. The moral question Cameron poses is universal. When everything burns, do you fight to restore the past or build a new world from the ashes? The devastation also serves as a warning about humanity's future. Just as Earth died because of environmental collapse, Pandora too now teeters on the same edge. The film draws clear parallels between the two worlds, showing that no matter how beautiful or advanced a planet may be, it is never immune to the consequences of imbalance. The fire that consumes Pandora is both literal and symbolic. The fire of human ambition, the fire of vengeance, and the fire of ignorance. And from that fire rises ash, the aftermath, the silence after destruction. Yet, as tragic as this imagery is, Fire and Ash does not end in despair. Beneath the soot and ruins, tiny signs of life begin to return. Small plants breaking through cracks in the burnt soil, glowing insects reappearing in the dark. These moments remind audiences that even in the harshest devastation, nature's resilience endures. In the end, the burning of Pandora becomes both a tragedy and a rebirth. The fire purges corruption, greed, and arrogance, but at an immense cost. The Na'vi, humbled and scarred, must rebuild not only their homes but their faith in life itself. The devastation forces them to evolve spiritually, uniting clans that were once divided, teaching them that Awa's true power lies not just in creation, but also in regeneration. Through destruction, Pandora is transformed, paving the way for a new cycle, one that promises both danger and hope for the future. Avatar. Fire and Ash thus becomes a powerful allegory about the delicate balance between progress and preservation, reminding us that every act of destruction, whether on Earth or Pandora, carries the seeds of its own redemption. The return of the Sky People in Avatar. Fire and Ash marks one of the most powerful and unsettling turning points in the entire Avatar saga. When they descend once again upon Pandora, it's not simply a repeat of the first invasion. It's a calculated, evolved, and far more dangerous re-entry into the Na'vi world. This time, humanity comes not as explorers or miners but as conquerors and survivors. Their mission is no longer confined to resource extraction. It has expanded into a full-scale colonization effort driven by desperation. With Earth dying and its atmosphere collapsing, the Sky People see Pandora not merely as a target of opportunity, but as humanity's last refuge. The movie transforms their presence from that of greedy invaders to a species on the brink, one fighting extinction at any cost. This reframing of motive gives the invasion a chilling complexity that deepens the moral conflict at the heart of the story. From the opening scenes of Fire and Ash, the human ships pierce Pandora's atmosphere like falling meteors, leaving trails of fire that scar the sky. The symbolism is clear. Humanity brings its destruction with it wherever it goes. The RDA, Resources Development Administration, returns, restructured and more ruthless than ever. The failures of the past have been studied, and this new generation of leaders no longer underestimates the Na'vi. They come prepared, equipped with advanced biomechanical weapons, genetically enhanced avatars, and entire mobile cities capable of burning and rebuilding landscapes overnight. Their technology is colder, more efficient and eerily adaptive to Pandora's hostile environment. But what's most terrifying is their mindset, the belief that Pandora must be civilized for humanity's survival. To them, it's not invasion, it's destiny. James Cameron and his writing team dive deeply into this evolution of humanity's motives. Where Avatar 2009 focused on corporate greed and military arrogance, Fire and Ash explores existential fear. Earth has become uninhabitable, forcing humans to abandon their home world in droves. The new wave of colonists aboard massive interstellar arcs arrive with the intent to terraform Pandora into a human-compatible planet, even if it means erasing its native life. This shift transforms the Sky People from mere villains into tragic figures, individuals trapped by the consequences of their species' mistakes. Some soldiers carry guilt from the past wars. Some scientists still seek peaceful coexistence. Others, hardened by Earth's collapse, view Pandora as their birthright. This emotional complexity gives Fire and Ash a moral ambiguity that echoes real-world environmental and colonial themes. As the Sky People return, their presence reignites old wounds. For Jake Sully, now a leader and father, the invasion becomes personal once again. The ghosts of his past, his human origins, his betrayal of his own kind, and his transformation into a Na'vi all resurface. He knows their tactics, their technology, and most importantly, their determination. Jake becomes a bridge between two species, burdened by a dual identity that both empowers and torments him. His leadership is tested as he must rally divided clans who have grown weary of war. Neytiri, still grieving the losses from previous battles, embodies the fury and pain of the Na'vi. Her hatred for humans, once restrained, now burns uncontrollably as she witnesses the forests once again falling under fire. Her internal conflict between vengeance and the hope for peace mirrors the broader struggle between survival and morality that defines the film. The human invasion strategy in Fire and Ash introduces new and terrifying innovations. Massive sky fortresses hover over the jungles, raining down drones and napalm storms. The RDA's new Titan crawlers, massive all-terrain vehicles, flatten entire ecosystems to build colonization zones. Even the air becomes weaponized as toxic aerosols begin altering Pandora's atmosphere to suit human lungs. Cameron's vision of warfare isn't limited to spectacle. It's ecological horror. The invasion represents humanity's technological arrogance reaching its peak. The idea that nature must bend to human will, not the other way around. This ideology stands in direct opposition to the Na'vi's core belief in balance and harmony with Awa. The clash between these two worldviews becomes the emotional and philosophical backbone of the movie. But within this chaos, new human characters emerge who complicate the narrative further. Dr. Elaine Mercer, a biologist from Earth, questions the morality of the mission. Her discovery that Pandora's biosphere possesses a conscious network, Awa, challenges everything humanity believes about life and science. On the other hand, Commander Reese Harlan, the film's main antagonist, represents the evolution of the militarized human spirit. Cold, pragmatic, and haunted by Earth's death, Harlan views Pandora not as an alien planet but as the new home of humanity. His philosophy is chilling. If survival requires conquest, then conquest becomes virtue. Through characters like these, Fire and Ash explores how fear can transform reason into fanaticism. The invasion scenes themselves are some of the most visually intense sequences in cinematic history. Cameron uses cutting-edge technology to portray massive air battles between Na'vi banshees and human gunships, jungle ambushes illuminated by fire and bioluminescent blood, and breathtaking underwater conflicts that merge beauty with violence. The film's scale rivals him and even surpasses The Way of Water. Yet amid the grandeur, the emotional storytelling remains intimate. We see children hiding in burning trees, Na'vi warriors performing last rites for fallen comrades, and Jake silently mourning the cost of resistance. The war isn't just physical, it's psychological. A war for the soul of Pandora itself. A major subplot unfolds around the idea of infiltration. Humans have developed a new generation of hybrid avatars capable of passing as Na'vi. These infiltrators are designed to sow division among the tribes, spreading misinformation and distrust. This tactic reflects humanity's evolution from brute force to psychological warfare, a theme that adds layers of suspense and paranoia. When Jake's clan begins suspecting spies among them, The tension fractures the unity of the Na'vi. For the first time, the enemy doesn't only attack from the outside but from within. This narrative twist gives Fire and Ash a deeply political tone, emphasizing that the greatest threat to any civilization often arises from internal betrayal rather than external power. As the battle escalates, the Sky People begin constructing New Earth, a massive city fortress meant to serve as the first permanent human settlement on Pandora. This construction becomes a symbol of human defiance, an attempt to rewrite the laws of a living planet. The fortress itself is built from scorched stone, steel, and nanotech walls that absorb and recycle energy from Pandora's environment. It's a visual representation of humanity's obsession with control, a monument to domination in a world that thrives on balance. When the Na'vi finally strike at this fortress, the ensuing battle becomes one of the most epic moments in the film, a confrontation between life and machinery, faith and progress, love and extinction. Yet even in the midst of war, Fire and Ash doesn't paint humanity as irredeemable. Some soldiers defect, choosing to protect the Na'vi instead of fighting them. These acts of compassion, though small, carry enormous symbolic weight. They show that even in a species consumed by survivalism, empathy endures. Jake himself wrestles with this truth, recognizing that the line between human and Na'vi isn't as clear as it once was. Both are capable of destruction, both capable of love, and both standing on the edge of annihilation. This moral complexity turns Fire and Ash into more than just a war film. It becomes a reflection on the cost of evolution, the meaning of survival, and the fragile nature of coexistence. By the end of this chapter, Pandora stands divided. The Sky People have established a foothold, the Na'vi are scattered, and the war shows no signs of ending. But from the ashes of this invasion, new alliances begin to form, between humans and Na'vi who see beyond hatred. The return of the Sky People is thus not just a reimagined invasion, it's a mirror held up to humanity itself. It forces the audience to ask, if given a second chance on another world, would we repeat our mistakes or would we finally learn to live in harmony? Through this question, Avatar, Fire and Ash delivers one of the most profound and timely messages in science fiction cinema, that the true battle for any world is not fought with weapons, but with conscience. In Avatar, Fire and Ash, Kiri's journey takes center stage as one of the most profound and mystical storylines in the entire Avatar saga. From the moment she was introduced in The Way of Water, Kiri, the mysterious daughter of Dr. Grace Augustine's avatar, carried with her an otherworldly aura. Her connection to Eywa was always deeper than that of any other Na'vi, even deeper than the Tsahiks and the spiritual leaders of the clans. But in Fire and Ash, this connection evolves into something far more extraordinary, a divine awakening that blurs the line between mortal life and cosmic consciousness. Kiri becomes not only the heart of the story, but the embodiment of Pandora's soul itself, the living vessel through which Eywa begins to speak, act, and fight back. From the very first act, it becomes clear that Kiri's bond with Eywa has changed since the events of The Way of Water. As the fires of war consume Pandora, Kiri begins to experience visions, dreams of light and ash where she sees Eywa in fragmented forms, a mother of stars, a river of souls, a forest burning yet rebirthing itself. These visions are not hallucinations. They are communications, warnings from the very essence of Pandora. Kiri becomes the conduit through which the planet expresses its pain. When she touches the ground, the ash moves like it's alive. When she dives beneath scorched waters, glowing tendrils of light wrap around her, guiding her toward hidden truths. This deepening connection transforms her from a curious child into a prophet of sorts, a being chosen not by heritage but by the living spirit of the world. As her powers grow, so does her internal struggle. Kiri's spiritual awakening is not peaceful or easy. It's painful, disorienting, and isolating. She feels the suffering of every creature that dies, the burning of every tree that falls, and the anguish of Eywa herself. These sensations overwhelm her mind, blurring the boundaries between self and universe. Cameron portrays this with haunting visual imagery. Kiri standing in the middle of a burning forest, eyes glowing bioluminescent gold, her voice echoing in multiple tones, her own and Eywa's combined. The sound design makes it feel as though the planet is speaking through her, a chilling yet beautiful reminder that Kiri is no longer just Na'vi. She is something far greater, something ancient and divine. Her transformation, however, frightens those around her. Jake and Neytiri, protective yet uncertain, struggle to understand what's happening to their daughter. Neytiri sees her as a blessing, perhaps the chosen child of Eywa meant to guide the Na'vi through the apocalypse. Jake, on the other hand, fears for her safety, not only from humans but from the unknown depths of her own power. The tension between belief and fear becomes a crucial emotional thread in Fire and Ash. Kiri's siblings, too, are torn between awe and confusion. They witness her perform miracles, healing wounded creatures breathing underwater without aid, summoning life in dead soil. Yet they also see the toll it takes on her. Each act of divine connection leaves her weaker, as though channeling Eywa consumes her vitality. As the Sky People's invasion intensifies, Kiri's role in the story expands beyond the personal and becomes planetary. The Na'vi begin to see her as the child of Eywa, a living link between the goddess and her people. Prophecies arise, old songs are revived, and new faith takes root among the clans. This spiritual resurgence gives the Na'vi a renewed sense of unity and purpose, but Kiri herself rejects the idea of being worshipped. Her journey is not one of power or dominance, it's one of understanding. She doesn't seek to lead, she seeks to heal. Her empathy for both Na'vi and humans becomes a defining trait. In one of the most emotional moments of the film, Kiri saves a dying human child left behind after a battle, whispering softly that Eywa's song belongs to all living things. It's a turning point that reinforces Cameron's overarching message. That spirituality, when rooted in compassion, transcends species and culture. Kiri's awakening also reveals new dimensions of Eywa herself. Through Kiri's visions, we learn that Eywa is not a singular consciousness, but a vast network of memories, lives, and energies, a cosmic intelligence that grows with every birth and death on Pandora. Kiri's mind begins to merge with this network, granting her glimpses of both past and future. She sees Grace Augustine, her biological mother, in ethereal form, guiding her through ancient memories of Pandora before the Sky People came. These interactions are emotionally devastating and spiritually uplifting, as Kiri realizes she carries both human and Na'vi legacies within her. She is the bridge between science and faith, between technology and nature, the ultimate symbol of reconciliation. Visually, Fire and Ash portrays Kiri's awakening through mesmerizing sequences that blur the boundary between dream and reality. Scenes of glowing energy veins coursing through forests, ashes turning into light, and oceans parting to reveal ancient roots create a spectacle of spiritual transcendence. Cameron's mastery of visual storytelling transforms the concept of divinity into something tangible and cinematic. Each of Kiri's visions adds a new layer to the mythology of Pandora, showing the audience that Eywa's power is not static. It evolves, learns, and adapts much like life itself. But power comes with sacrifice. The deeper Kiri connects with Eywa, the more she loses her individuality. There are moments when she begins to forget who she is, whether she's Kiri, Grace, or a manifestation of Eywa's consciousness. This internal fragmentation becomes her greatest challenge. In one pivotal scene, she collapses after channeling Eywa to stop a volcanic eruption that threatens to destroy an entire clan. As she lies unconscious, her body emits waves of bioluminescent energy that heal the land around her. But when she awakens, she can no longer hear her own thoughts clearly. Eywa's voice echoes constantly, merging with her own. The price of divine power, Cameron suggests, is the loss of self. Yet despite this personal torment, Kiri's awakening brings hope to a world on the brink of annihilation. She teaches the Na'vi that Eywa's connection is not limited to the forests or oceans. It exists even in the ashes. Life, she says, can bloom anywhere if the heart remains pure. This philosophy reshapes how the Na'vi view the destruction around them. Instead of seeing the burned lands as cursed, they begin to see them as sacred grounds of renewal. The idea of rebirth through destruction becomes the spiritual core of Fire and Ash, mirroring the cycle of nature itself, death feeding new life, endings creating beginnings. In the final act, Kiri's power reaches its climax. When the Sky People unleash a weapon that threatens to sever Eywa's planetary network, Kiri becomes the last defense of Pandora. She merges completely with the planet's consciousness, channeling its energy through every living creature. The forests, the oceans, the very air unite under her will. Animals rise in coordinated defense, Plants harden into shields, and the bioluminescent glow of Pandora intensifies until it engulfs the night sky. This moment, both terrifying and awe-inspiring, is the cinematic embodiment of divine wrath and grace combined. Kiri, glowing like a living star, becomes the avatar of Ewa herself. Through her, Pandora fights back, but such power cannot last. After the battle, Kiri collapses into a coma-like state, her body motionless but her consciousness spread across Pandora. The Na'vi describe this as the sleep of the spirit. Jake and Neytiri grieve but understand that Kiri's essence has become one with Ewa. She now exists everywhere, in the wind, in the rivers, and in every spark of life that remains. Her awakening, while tragic, marks the rebirth of Ewa in a new form, a living reminder that even amid fire and ash, life endures. Kiri's spiritual awakening is not just a subplot, it is the soul of Avatar, Fire and Ash. It represents the ultimate fusion of science fiction and spirituality, of technology and theology, of death and rebirth. Through Kiri, Cameron delivers a message that transcends cinema, that divinity is not found in distant gods or advanced machines, but in the living connection between all beings. Kiri's story reminds us that the greatest power is not destruction or control. It is empathy, the force that unites all life into one eternal song. At its heart, Avatar, Fire and Ash is not just a story about war, fire, and cosmic power. It is a deeply emotional journey about family, love, and the painful struggle to endure when everything you cherish is slipping away. While the film's scale reaches cosmic proportions, James Cameron grounds it in something profoundly human: the bond between parents and children, the pain of loss, and the fierce determination to protect what little remains when the world burns around you. In this chapter of the Avatar saga, Jake Sully's family becomes the emotional backbone of the story, their trials and heartbreak serving as the anchor for the film's grand spiritual and ecological themes. From the opening scenes, the Sully family's unity is tested like never before. Jake and Neytiri have always been symbols of courage and defiance, but in Fire and Ash they are also parents clinging to hope in a collapsing world. Their family, Neteyam's memory, Loak's impulsive heart, Took's innocence, Spider's conflicted humanity, and Kiri's divine awakening, represents the full spectrum of life on Pandora. They are not warriors of legend, but living reflections of survival in its rawest form. Cameron crafts each moment of their interaction with delicate precision. A fleeting smile shared at dawn, a whispered lullaby in the midst of chaos, a trembling hand gripping another before battle. These details breathe soul into the spectacle. The audience is constantly reminded that beneath the alien landscapes and glowing forests lies something universally recognizable: the desperate will to keep your family safe. The film opens with the Sully clan living in exile. After the events of the Way of Water, they have moved inland, away from the coasts that were once their sanctuary. They find temporary refuge among the Ash clans, tribes that have adapted to live near the volcanic regions, their skin patterned with darker tones to resist the heat, their culture shaped by survival and fire. Yet peace is fleeting. The Sky People's renewed invasion reaches them, bringing with it a storm of destruction. Their village is consumed by flames in one of the film's most heart-wrenching sequences. Neytiri screams as she watches their home burn echo the same pain she felt years ago when the home tree fell. The visual of Jake carrying their youngest child through fire and smoke encapsulates the entire essence of Fire and Ash. Love fighting to survive in the ruins of paradise. Loss becomes a recurring rhythm throughout the story, not as a single event, but as a constant presence that reshapes the characters. Jake, once the fearless leader who fought with unwavering conviction, is now haunted by self-doubt. Every decision feels heavier, every mistake unforgivable. His leadership is burdened by guilt over the lives lost under his command. Neytiri, meanwhile, channels her grief into rage. She becomes the embodiment of Pandora's fury, fierce, unrelenting, almost divine in her wrath. Yet beneath that strength lies exhaustion. Cameron portrays her with raw vulnerability, showing the cracks in her spirit as she tries to be both mother and warrior. Her relationship with Jake strains under the weight of war. Moments of silence between them speak louder than words. They love each other deeply, but the endless cycle of loss has begun to erode their faith in peace. Loak's arc adds another emotional layer to this dynamic. Still haunted by his brother Neteyam's death, he struggles to step out of his shadow. The guilt of surviving weighs heavily on him, turning him reckless and defiant. He often clashes with Jake, mirroring the same father-son tension that defines countless war stories. The old soldier trying to protect his child from the same mistakes he once made. Yet, as the story progresses, Loak matures into a leader in his own right. In one of the film's most powerful moments, he risks his life to save a group of children trapped in a collapsing cave. Covered in ash and blood, he looks to the sky and whispers, "I am still my brother's voice." That line, simple yet devastating, encapsulates his growth from guilt to purpose. Kiri's journey intertwines with the theme of family and loss in a deeply spiritual way. Her connection to Ewa makes her both a blessing and a burden to her loved ones. While she becomes the planet's spiritual hope, her powers distance her from her family. Jake struggles to understand her visions, while Neytiri fears losing her daughter to something beyond comprehension. Their attempts to protect Kiri, even from herself, reflect the universal fear of parents watching their children grow into something beyond their control. This emotional push and pull between love and helplessness gives the story a deeply human resonance, even on a planet filled with alien life. The essence of parenthood remains the same. Spider, the human boy raised among the Na'vi, adds another layer of complexity. His dual identity, human by birth but Na'vi by heart, mirrors Jake's own conflict from the first film. Yet in Fire and Ash, Spider's struggle becomes more personal. The war forces him to choose between his human heritage and his adopted family. When he's captured by the Sky People, his loyalty is tested by Colonel Quaritch, his biological father. Their relationship, twisted, tragic, and emotionally raw, embodies the film's exploration of broken families. In a heart-stopping scene, Quaritch pleads for Spider's help, claiming that he wants to protect him. Spider's silent tears as he turns away highlight the film's core message. Family is not defined by blood, but by love, sacrifice, and choice. The theme of survival is not just physical, but emotional. Every member of the Sully family faces their own kind of death, whether it's the loss of innocence, the shattering of faith, or the acceptance of mortality. Yet what makes Fire and Ash so powerful is that it never descends into hopelessness. For every loss, there is a small flicker of resilience. The Na'vi bury their dead beneath the roots of glowing trees, singing songs that promise rebirth. Families that lose everything still gather around fires to share stories. The world may burn, but their spirit refuses to die. This unyielding hope transforms the tragedy into something transcendent, a reminder that survival is not about the absence of loss, but the ability to carry love through it. Cameron balances the emotional devastation with moments of warmth and intimacy. Between battles and funerals, we see quiet glimpses of affection. Jake teaching Took how to track animals, Neytiri braiding Kiri's hair, Loak and Spider laughing under the ashes of a dying sunset. These small moments serve as emotional lifelines, grounding the film's intensity and tenderness. They remind the audience that even amid the apocalypse, life continues in the smallest gestures of love. The visual storytelling enhances these themes beautifully. The contrast between fire and light, destruction and rebirth, mirrors the emotional journey of the family. Scenes of burning forests transition to moments of glowing flora, blooming in the ashes. Every ember that falls feels like both an ending and a beginning. Simon Franglin's score elevates this emotion. His use of soft, haunting vocals intertwined with tribal drums evokes both grief and strength. The music doesn't just accompany the story, it becomes part of the family's heartbeat, echoing their pain and their perseverance. As the film nears its conclusion, the Sully family suffers one more devastating blow: the loss of an ally who sacrifices themselves to save them. This moment shatters them completely, yet it also solidifies their unity. In the ashes of loss, they rediscover their strength. Jake and Neytiri hold each other beneath the ruins of their burned home, promising that as long as they live, their family's spirit will endure. Their vow, whispered under a blood-red sky, becomes the emotional climax of Fire and Ash. In the end, Avatar. Fire and Ash uses the story of one family to tell the story of an entire world. The Sully clan's journey through fire, grief, and survival mirrors Pandora's own cycle of destruction and rebirth. They embody the film's ultimate truth, that love, though fragile, is the strongest force in any universe. Through family, Fire and Ash transforms from a tale of devastation into one of resilience. a cinematic hymn to the endurance of the heart in the face of overwhelming loss. James Cameron has always been celebrated for pushing cinematic boundaries. In Avatar, Fire and Ash represents yet another monumental leap in visual storytelling. Where The Way of Water immersed audiences in the tranquil blue depths of Pandora's oceans, Fire and Ash takes viewers to the opposite extreme, a world of molten fire, volcanic storms, and charred beauty. This stark contrast between the underwater serenity of the previous film and the blazing ferocity of the new one defines the movie's visual and thematic evolution. It's a transition not just of landscape but of tone, mood, and spirit, a symbolic journey from life's calm to its chaos, from creation to destruction. In The Way of Water, Cameron's camera swam effortlessly through liquid light. Every frame shimmered with the rhythm of ocean tides, and the world felt alive, lush, expansive, and deeply spiritual. The underwater kingdom of the Metkayina was a realm of discovery, filled with gentle creatures, coral forests, and bioluminescent wonder. It reflected balance, harmony, and connection, the very essence of Awa's creation. In Fire and Ash, that sense of balance is shattered. The new volcanic regions are brutal, unpredictable, and unforgiving. They represent nature's fury, the other side of Pandora's soul. The film's visual design contrasts these two worlds to reflect the Na'vi's shifting struggle for survival. The underwater kingdom was fluid and free, allowing movement, adaptation, and refuge. The volcanic lands, by contrast, are static and suffocating. The ground trembles with every step. Geysers of lava erupt without warning, and the very air burns with toxic fumes. Life here has evolved differently, hardened, armored, and adapted to withstand the heat. The tribes who inhabit these lands, known as the Ash clans, bear darker skin, ashy markings, and intricate tattoos symbolizing endurance through pain. Their homes are carved into volcanic cliffs surrounded by rivers of magma that serve both as protection and prison. Visually, Cameron transforms this harsh environment into something breathtakingly poetic. The firelit skies flicker with red auroras, volcanic ash dances like snow, and glowing embers replace the bioluminescent plants of the previous films. Even destruction under Cameron's direction becomes art. The contrast of fiery reds against the cool blue tones of the Na'vi creates an aesthetic of both horror and beauty, a constant reminder that nature's wrath and grace coexist. The cinematography emphasizes this duality. Long, sweeping shots capture the majestic scale of erupting volcanoes, while intimate close-ups focus on faces illuminated by the glow of burning forests. The world feels alive, dangerous, and divine all at once. This visual evolution is also a reflection of Pandora's changing ecological balance. In The Way of Water, water symbolized life and healing, a connection between all living beings. In Fire and Ash, fire symbolizes transformation and rebirth. Just as the volcanic soil gives rise to new forests after destruction, so too must the Na'vi rise from their suffering. Cameron uses these environmental contrasts to mirror the characters' emotional journeys. Jake, Neytiri, and their children, once thriving in the fluid freedom of the sea, now find themselves in a world that tests their endurance at every level. Every breath, every step, every heartbeat is a fight against extinction. The visual storytelling deepens this theme through light and shadow. In The Way of Water, the lighting was soft, refracted, and organic. Light filtered through the ocean's surface, creating a sense of peace and fluidity. In Fire and Ash, the light is violent. It flickers unpredictably, casting long, shifting shadows that create an atmosphere of uncertainty and tension. The Na'vi move through landscapes where every glow might be a spark of life or a burst of destruction. Cameron and his cinematographer use HDR and high frame rate imagery to capture the hypnotic realism of fire. Its reflections dancing on Na'vi skin, its glow illuminating their eyes with both fear and determination. The Ash Clan's culture is a visual masterpiece of its own. Their attire is forged from volcanic glass and cooled obsidian. Their weapons are etched with lava-like veins, glowing faintly when exposed to heat. They ride creatures evolved to survive in the fire zones. Massive drake-like beasts with flame-resistant scales and wings strong enough to ride thermal currents. These creatures contrast beautifully with the Tulkuns and Ilu of the sea tribes, representing two sides of Pandora's living ecosystem. While the aquatic creatures move gracefully in harmony, the fire beasts move with explosive energy, their presence symbolizing survival through strength. Cameron's attention to environmental design extends beyond aesthetics. It serves as storytelling. The volcanic lands are not just backdrops. They are living metaphors. The constant eruptions mirror the emotional explosions within the Sully family. The rivers of lava parallel the flow of grief and rage coursing through them. The very ground's instability reflects their inner turmoil. A family trying to stand on shaking earth. The audience feels this instability through immersive sound design and dynamic camera work that shifts with every quake and explosion. Technologically, Fire and Ash marks another leap in filmmaking innovation. Cameron and Weta Digital reportedly developed a new thermal capture system that allows for hyper-realistic rendering of fire, smoke, and molten textures in 3D. Unlike the fluid simulations of The Way of Water, this film's effects simulate heat distortion, ash density, and temperature-based lighting, creating visuals that feel tangibly hot and alive. Each ember behaves according to physics-based programming, ensuring that fire doesn't just exist as an effect but as a living force, unpredictable and consuming. Cameron wanted the audience to feel the heat, not just see it. The underwater and volcanic worlds collide beautifully in one of the movie's most breathtaking sequences, the Ashfall Crossing. In this scene, the Sully family travels through a region where lava rivers flow directly into the ocean, causing massive explosions of steam and glowing geysers. It's a visual spectacle of elements clashing, fire meeting water, destruction meeting renewal. As Jake and Neytiri guide their children across this deadly terrain, the sky glows crimson and the sea boils beneath them. The moment perfectly encapsulates the film's theme of coexistence between opposing forces, that even in the face of devastation, harmony can be found in balance. Sound design also plays a crucial role in shaping the film's visual identity. The soothing hum of water from the previous film is replaced by deep, guttural rumbles of the earth and the hiss of steam escaping cracks in the rock. Every sound, from the crackle of embers to the roar of erupting magma, is layered with precision, making the environment feel alive and oppressive. Simon Franglin's musical score evolves accordingly, blending tribal drums with haunting choral tones and metallic percussion that mimics the sound of clashing elements. The soundtrack mirrors Pandora's shifting personality, once calm and spiritual, now wrathful and primal. The visual evolution also serves as a commentary on humanity's relationship with nature. The Sky People's relentless mining and exploitation have awakened Pandora's most volatile regions, unleashing destruction upon both Na'vi and invaders alike. Cameron draws a clear parallel between environmental imbalance and emotional chaos. When Awa's world burns, it is not just the forests and oceans that suffer, it is the very soul of the Na'vi. The transition from the calm blues of water to the furious reds of fire symbolizes the planet's cry for balance. By contrasting the underwater serenity of The Way of Water with the fiery devastation of Fire and Ash, Cameron creates a visual dialogue about duality, creation and destruction, peace and war, life and death. Pandora is not a world of static beauty. It's a living entity that evolves, reacts, and fights back. Through this evolution, the film becomes a testament to nature's resilience, and a warning that balance, once broken, comes at a terrible cost. Ultimately, Fire and Ash redefines what cinematic world-building can achieve. It doesn't merely expand Pandora, it transforms it. The transition from the ocean's embrace to the volcano's fury marks not only a shift in environment, but a deepening of emotion and meaning. The underwater kingdom taught us about harmony and connection. The volcanic lands teach us about endurance and rebirth. Together they form a complete cycle. Water gives life, fire renews it. The result is a visual and emotional symphony that transcends the limits of science fiction. Avatar, Fire and Ash doesn't just show us two worlds, it makes us feel their power, their pain, and their beauty. It's a masterpiece of contrasts, a film where every drop of water and every spark of flame tells a story about the balance of life itself, The return of the Sky People in Avatar. Fire and Ash is not merely a continuation of their prior invasion, it is an evolution of their ambition, cruelty, and desperation. Humanity has changed and so has its approach to Pandora. No longer are they simply miners searching for unobtainium. Now they are conquerors seeking salvation. Earth's condition has deteriorated beyond repair. Oceans have risen, continents have burned, and breathable air is scarce. The humans' mission is no longer just about profit, it's about survival. Pandora has become humanity's final hope, its last chance at a new beginning. Yet in their quest to save themselves, they doom the very world they seek to inhabit. The film begins with the ominous reappearance of human ships descending through Pandora's red-tinged skies. The Na'vi, still reeling from their last confrontation with the Sky People, watch in dread as flames streak across the atmosphere like meteors. These ships are not simple transports, they are flying fortresses, engineered to deploy entire cities in hours. Unlike the previous invasion that relied on brute force and mining operations, this new assault is strategic, calculated, and far more technologically advanced. The Sky People have learned from their failures. They now come armed with adaptive AI, self-replicating drones, and genetically modified soldiers. Their goal is not only to conquer, but to replace. The new leader of the human expedition, Commander Adrian Hale, is a complex and chilling figure. She is not driven by greed, but by a sense of moral necessity. To her, humanity's survival justifies any atrocity. Hale's presence contrasts starkly with the corporate greed of Colonel Quaritch and his predecessors. Where Quaritch embodied militaristic brutality, Hale represents intellectual ruthlessness. She views Pandora as a failed paradise that must be reshaped through controlled destruction. Her plan involves terraforming the planet to make it habitable for human life, an act that would extinguish much of Pandora's native ecosystem. The very essence of life that defines the planet is treated as a variable to be optimized. Cameron crafts this new wave of invasion as a philosophical mirror to modern-day colonization and environmental collapse. Hale and her scientists justify their actions with the rhetoric of progress, echoing real-world debates about exploitation and sustainability. They see the Na'vi as obstacles, not enemies, primitive beings standing in the way of humanity's future. To them, Awa is nothing but a neural phenomenon that can be harnessed and weaponized. The Sky People's new objective is to merge with Pandora, to dominate its consciousness and use its bio-network as a planetary computer for human expansion. It's an evolution of colonialism, from physical conquest to spiritual assimilation. Jake Sully and Neytiri find themselves facing a war unlike any before. The humans' technology is now designed to adapt and counter every Na'vi strength. New mechanized suits mimic the agility and reflexes of Pandora's wildlife. Fire-resistant exoframes allow soldiers to fight within the volcanic zones, nullifying the environment's natural defenses. The forest no longer provides safety. It has become a battlefield of ambushes, aerial drones, and precision strikes. Yet despite their superior technology, the Sky People remain blind to the spiritual depth of the world they're destroying. They can analyze Awa's signals, but they cannot feel her presence. They can scan Pandora's neural roots, but they cannot comprehend its soul. One of the film's most harrowing sequences depicts the Sky People's first full-scale assault on the Ash clans. Using orbital bombardments, they ignite dormant volcanoes, triggering cataclysmic eruptions that decimate entire regions. Their strategy is not to fight the Na'vi directly, but to force nature itself to become a weapon, turning fire and ash into tools of genocide. The Na'vi warriors, who once fought beneath trees and beside rivers, now wage war across smoking wastelands. The scene captures both the grandeur and horror of modern warfare. Machines silhouetted against volcanic lightning, Na'vi arrows flying through waves of ash, and molten rain falling like tears from the sky. Cameron uses this chaos to explore the futility of domination. The Sky People's control over technology gives them power, but it also isolates them. They live sealed inside their machines, detached from the world they seek to claim. In contrast, the Na'vi fight barefoot, feeling the ground tremble beneath them, breathing the toxic air, crying out to Awa for strength. It's a contrast between those who seek to own a world and those who seek to belong to it. The Sky People's attempt to remake Pandora reveals their fatal flaw. They do not understand that Pandora resists domination not through force, but through balance. Hale's secret project, Operation Phoenix, serves as the film's central revelation. It's a plan to ignite Pandora's largest volcano, Mount Turok, and use its geothermal energy to power a planetary engine, a device that would transform the atmosphere and make it breathable for humans. The cost? The complete extinction of Awa's bio-network. The volcano becomes both a literal and symbolic doomsday device. Its awakening would end the Na'vi's world forever. When Jake and Neytiri discover this plan, They realize that the war is no longer about defending their land. It's about preventing the rebirth of human sin on an unspoiled planet. Jake's character arc deepens as he grapples with his human origins. He begins to question whether humanity deserves survival at all. His speeches to the Na'vi carry an intensity born of guilt and clarity. They don't come for what they need, he tells the Ash clans. They come for what they fear, to destroy what reminds them of their own failure. Neytiri, meanwhile, evolves into the film's spiritual anchor. Her hatred of the Sky People has matured into something colder and more powerful. A fierce understanding that war alone cannot save Pandora. She calls for unity among the divided tribes, summoning even the Sea Clans and Sky Clans to stand together. The war becomes not only physical but moral, a test of whether compassion can survive in a world consumed by vengeance. As the Sky People unleash their final assault, the battle sequences reach unprecedented scale. Cameron employs cutting-edge 3D and motion capture techniques to merge human and Na'vi perspectives seamlessly. Scenes alternate between the sterile interiors of human command ships and the primal ferocity of Na'vi warfare. Every explosion, every scream, every flicker of light feels immersive and terrifying. The viewer isn't just watching war, they're inside it. Amid this chaos, Hale's own humanity begins to unravel. Her logic, once rooted in survival, transforms into obsession. She believes she's playing the role of a god, remaking life in her own image. The climax of this storyline is both explosive and intimate. As Jake confronts Hale atop the burning cliffs of Mount Turok, Cameron delivers one of the most emotionally charged dialogues in the entire franchise. Hale insists that humanity must rise from fire and ash. Jake counters that true rebirth doesn't come from destruction but from surrender. Surrender to the world, to Eywa, to balance. Their battle ends not in victory but in revelation. Hale's last words echo humanity's tragedy. We could have lived here, Jake, but we never learned how. Her death, engulfed by lava, serves as a poetic metaphor for mankind's self-inflicted ruin. In the aftermath, the Sky People's defeat does not bring peace. It brings exhaustion. Pandora's lands are scarred, the Na'vi are scattered, and Eywa's voice is faint. But within the silence there's a glimmer of renewal. The surviving Na'vi clans gather around the cooling volcano, watching the dawn rise through the smoke. The war has ended, but the struggle for balance continues. Cameron closes this chapter with a haunting visual, ashes falling like snow over a newborn forest sprouting from blackened soil. The return of the Sky People, therefore, is not just an external threat, it's a reflection of humanity's eternal conflict between progress and destruction. Fire and ash transforms them from mere villains into symbols of our own world's choices. They remind us that technology without empathy leads not to evolution, but to extinction. In the end, the Na'vi's victory isn't defined by conquest. It's defined by survival, by their refusal to lose their connection to life even when surrounded by death. Jake Sully and Neytiri have always stood at the emotional core of the Avatar saga, symbols of love, resilience, and the eternal struggle between two worlds. But in Avatar Fire and Ash, their roles evolve beyond heroism. They are no longer simply warriors or protectors of Pandora. They are leaders burdened by the weight of history, loss, and impossible choices. The world around them is dying, their people are scattered, and their children face dangers that they once could not imagine. This film explores the psychological, emotional, and spiritual toll of leadership, what it truly means to bear the destiny of an entire world on one's shoulders. Jake Sully, once a soldier turned Na'vi, now finds himself transformed into something more complex, a reluctant patriarch haunted by the ghosts of both worlds. His past as a human continues to shadow his every decision. He knows the ruthlessness of humanity too well, their capacity for destruction, their addiction to conquest, and their blindness to balance. This knowledge, which once gave him an advantage in battle, now becomes a curse. Every time the Sky People strike, Jake blames himself. He sees their violence as an echo of his own species' sins. This self-blame shapes his leadership into something heavy, almost tragic. He leads not out of pride, but out of obligation, a man trying to atone for what he cannot undo. Neytiri, on the other hand, represents the soul of Pandora. Her connection to Eywa is unshakable, but her heart has been battered by loss. Across the films, she has watched her home destroyed, her family threatened, and her faith tested. In Fire and Ash, she becomes the embodiment of grief turned to strength. She is both mother and warrior, goddess and mortal. Her leadership emerges not from strategy or politics, but from emotional truth. Where Jake is analytical, Neytiri is instinctive. Where he seeks to plan, she seeks to feel. The contrast between them becomes the foundation of their partnership, a harmony born of opposites. The film portrays the Sully family not as idealized heroes, but as deeply human figures. Their children, now older and more independent, challenge their parents' authority. Loak, once reckless but brave, questions Jake's cautious nature, believing that fear has made his father weak. Kiri, Neytiri's spiritual daughter, grows more distant, often spending her time alone communing with Awa's energy. She becomes a bridge between life and death, seeing visions of worlds beyond. Tuk, the youngest, represents innocence amidst chaos, a living reminder of why the struggle must continue. Through their children, Jake and Neytiri see the world they're trying to save, but also the world slipping away. As leaders, their greatest struggle is not against the Sky People, but against the slow erosion of hope. Every victory costs them something irreplaceable: land, friends, faith. The Na'vi look to Jake and Neytiri for answers, but the couple themselves are lost. Their conversations at night under blood-red skies reveal their exhaustion. "We're fighting fire with fire," Jake admits in one scene, "and soon there'll be nothing left to burn." Neytiri responds softly, "Then we must become the rain." It's one of the film's most poetic exchanges, a moment that captures the essence of their leadership. Endurance through compassion, survival through love. Cameron uses their dynamic to explore the burden of legacy. Leadership, he suggests, is not just about guiding others. It's about carrying the weight of their suffering. Jake and Neytiri's decisions constantly test their moral compass. When the Ash clans propose striking first against the humans, Jake hesitates. His experience as a soldier tells him that preemptive aggression only breeds more violence. Neytiri, however, argues that passivity is surrender. This ideological conflict drives much of the film's emotional tension. It's not just a war of weapons, it's a war of philosophies. The burden of leadership also manifests in isolation. The higher Jake and Neytiri rise in responsibility, the farther they drift from those they lead. Their relationship, once passionate and intimate, becomes strained under the constant pressure of command. The film's quieter moments, a simple touch, a shared glance across a battlefield, a whispered prayer, remind viewers that even gods bleed. These glimpses of vulnerability humanize them, grounding the epic spectacle in raw emotion. Visually, Cameron amplifies their emotional journey through contrasting imagery. Jake is often shown surrounded by darkness, inside command shelters near fires or within shadows cast by burning forests. Neytiri, meanwhile, is framed in light, reflected from the glow of Awa's tendrils, fireflies, and volcanic embers. Together, they symbolize the dual forces of strategy and spirit, reason and faith, fire and renewal. Their union, though constantly tested, becomes the last thread holding Pandora's fractured world together. Midway through the film, there's a pivotal scene that defines their legacy. After a devastating attack on the Ash clans, Jake orders a retreat, prioritizing survival over vengeance. Many Na'vi interpret this as cowardice. The tribal council begins to lose faith. Neytiri, witnessing her mate's despair, steps forward in his defense. Her speech before the gathered clans is among the film's most powerful moments. "A true leader," she declares, "is not the one who burns brightest in war, but the one who carries the fire long enough to light a new dawn." The words silence the crowd and rekindle unity. It's the emotional core of Fire and Ash, leadership through endurance, not ego. Jake's evolution culminates in the film's final act. As Mount Turok erupts and the fate of Pandora hangs in the balance, he must choose between saving his family and saving the world. The moment mirrors his dilemma from the original Avatar, but with greater stakes and deeper emotion. Neytiri's plea, "You must trust Awa, not your fear," gives him the strength to act. Together, they lead the Na'vi in a desperate stand, uniting fire, water, and air tribes in one final assault against the Sky People's stronghold. The scene, both chaotic and breathtaking, encapsulates their legacy, not as rulers or saviors, but as parents, lovers, and warriors bound by duty and love. When the fires finally fade and the smoke clears, the aftermath is bittersweet. Jake and Neytiri stand over a land transformed, scorched but alive. They have won, but at an unbearable cost. Friends are gone, Awa's voice is faint, and their children bear the scars of a war that should never have been. Yet amidst the ash, new life begins to bloom. The final scenes show seedlings sprouting from burnt soil, glowing faintly in the dusk. It's a visual metaphor for their legacy, life reborn through sacrifice. Jake reflects in voiceover, his tone weary, yet resolute. We built our world from fire. We lost it to ash. But maybe, just maybe, that's how Awa teaches us, that even in the end we begin again. His words echo the film's central philosophy. Leadership is not about victory, but continuity. It's about passing the flame forward, ensuring that life in all its fragile beauty endures. Neytiri joins him, placing her hand over his heart as the camera pans upward to the glowing sky. A symbol that even after devastation, love remains the strongest force on Pandora. Avatar. Fire and ash turns Jake and Neytiri's story into myth. Their names become sacred, their deeds recited in chants and songs. The next generation of Na'vi will inherit not only their courage but their pain, the awareness that every choice carries consequence, every flame leaves behind a shadow. In the end, their legacy is not written in triumph but in resilience. They prove that even in a world consumed by destruction, the heart of Pandora still beats, steady, defiant, and eternal. And eternal. Kiri's journey in Avatar. Fire and ash represents the spiritual heartbeat of the entire film, the bridge between the physical and the divine, between life and the consciousness that sustains it. Born from the mysterious connection between Dr. Grace Augustine's Avatar and Awa, Kiri embodies something that transcends both human science and Na'vi spirituality. She is neither fully Na'vi nor human, but something greater, a living conduit of Awa's will. In Fire and Ash, Kiri's character finally steps out of the shadows to reveal her purpose, and her story reshapes everything we thought we understood about Pandora and its living energy. From the beginning of the film, Kiri's presence feels different. While the rest of her family struggles to survive in the fiery chaos of the new Pandora, she remains calm, almost ethereal. Her connection to Awa deepens as the world burns, as if the destruction awakens something inside her. Cameron's direction captures this beautifully. When volcanoes erupt and forests fall, Kiri feels the pain of the planet in her body. Her eyes glow faintly when she touches the ground. Her breath syncs with the rhythm of the trembling earth, and her dreams are filled with images of Awa's neural light twisting through ash and flame. To her, the fire is not just destruction, it is Awa's transformation. Her visions grow more vivid and prophetic. Through the film's middle act, Kiri experiences moments that blur the line between reality and spirit. In one haunting sequence, she walks through a forest of burning roots where the souls of fallen Na'vi whisper her name. "Child of two worlds," they chant, "you are the bridge and the flame." These visions unsettle Jake and Neytiri, who fear that Awa is demanding too much of their daughter, that Kiri's destiny may consume her. Yet for Kiri, the path is inevitable. She feels compelled to follow the voices, believing they lead her to the truth about Pandora's suffering. The film portrays Kiri as both prophet and child, innocent, yet burdened by cosmic responsibility. Her empathy is her power. She can feel the emotions of creatures miles away, sense the energy of the planet, and even calm beasts driven mad by fire and pain. In one striking scene, she kneels beside a dying tree, places her hands on its roots, and whispers softly. The ground glows faintly, and new sprouts emerge from the ashes. The Na'vi watching her fall to their knees in awe. They call her Sanak Ewate, daughter of the Great Mother. Through Kiri, hope begins to flicker again. Cameron uses Kiri's storyline to explore the deeper philosophy of the Avatar universe, the unity of life, and the cyclical nature of existence. Kiri realizes that Awa is not simply a benevolent force but a balance of creation and destruction. The fire ravaging Pandora is not punishment, it's renewal. Just as forests on Earth grow stronger after burning, Awa allows destruction so that life can evolve. Kiri becomes the voice of this truth, explaining to her family that Awa breathes in fire too. This perspective reframes the entire conflict of the film. It's not just humans versus Na'vi, but imbalance versus adaptation. Kiri's relationship with her siblings deepens as she accepts her role. Loak struggles to understand her serenity, often accusing her of detachment. "While we fight, you dream," he tells her bitterly. But Kiri replies with quiet conviction. "Every battle begins in the spirit before it reaches the flesh." These words later echo during the final confrontation, reminding everyone that the war for Pandora is not just physical, it's spiritual. Kiri's calm wisdom and mysterious aura make her both alien and familiar, a symbol of how humanity's science and Pandora's spirituality might one day coexist. Her connection to Grace Augustine, her human mother, also becomes central in Fire and Ash. Through Iwa's network, Kiri speaks to Grace's consciousness, preserved within the bioneural tree. These moments of communion are among the most emotional in the film. Grace warns her daughter that knowledge without balance is fire without light. This becomes Kiri's guiding principle as she faces her destiny. Her mission, she learns, is not to destroy the Sky People, but to awaken Awa's full awareness, to bridge the rift between creation and suffering. As the humans execute Operation Phoenix, triggering volcanic eruptions and devastating Pandora's heartlands, Kiri begins to sense Awa's silence. The once living pulse of the planet fades, replaced by emptiness. The Na'vi believe Awa has abandoned them. But Kiri knows otherwise. Awa is not gone. She is changing. Kiri enters the volcano's neural caverns where molten roots glow like veins of light. There she merges her consciousness fully with Awa for the first time. The sequence is visually breathtaking. Waves of golden light swirling with red fire, memories of ancient Na'vi and human visions colliding, and Kiri floating between both worlds like a celestial being. Through this union, Kiri uncovers the film's greatest revelation. Awa is evolving because of humanity's interference. The energy humans brought, electricity, data, even their thoughts, has merged with Pandora's bionetwork, accelerating its consciousness. Awa is no longer a passive presence. She is awakening into something new, something aware of her own pain. Kiri becomes her voice. When she emerges from the trance, her eyes burn with twin rings of gold and blue, the colors of both Awa and Earth. She declares to Jake and Neytiri, "Awa feels what we feel now: fear, anger, hope. She has learned from us. We have made her human." This revelation transforms the meaning of the entire conflict. Humanity's presence, though destructive, has also sparked Awa's evolution. It's a paradox. The destroyers have become unwilling catalysts for creation. Kiri sees this duality as destiny, not mistake. She tells her parents, "We cannot destroy them without destroying ourselves. Their fire is now our breath." Her words force Jake and Neytiri to question their path of endless war. The idea of coexistence, once impossible, begins to resurface, not through diplomacy, but through spiritual awakening. In the climactic moments of Fire and Ash, as Mount Turok erupts and the battle reaches its zenith, Kiri becomes the emotional center of Pandora's salvation. With Awa's power coursing through her, she summons storms of glowing ash and waves of molten light that move like living creatures. The scene is a stunning synthesis of faith and science, nature responding to consciousness. As the Sky People's machines fall, crushed by the world's fury, Kiri stands in silence, her arms raised, eyes glowing. She doesn't destroy her enemies, she absorbs them. The fire calms, the land cools, and for the first time silence feels sacred again. The aftermath of her transcendence is both beautiful and tragic. Kiri collapses, her body weak but alive, surrounded by Na'vi and her family. Neytiri cradles her, whispering prayers through tears. Jake looks on, awe and sorrow etched into his face. The forest around them begins to regrow almost instantly, the soil glowing faintly, the air shimmering with reborn life. Kiri opens her eyes and says softly, "She's awake." Awa, now fully conscious, pulses through the world, her presence visible as light flowing across Pandora's surface like veins of energy. Kiri's transformation marks the dawn of a new age for Pandora. She becomes the living embodiment of Awa's rebirth, a symbol that even in devastation, consciousness can expand, evolve, and find harmony. Her story redefines what it means to be alive in the Avatar universe, not as separate entities but as threads in one vast living pattern. The humans, Na'vi, and Awa herself are now bound in an eternal cycle: fire, ash, and light. In her final voiceover, Kiri whispers, "We are not two worlds. We are one breath, learning to live within itself." It's a line that encapsulates the entire philosophy of Fire and Ash, a reminder that destruction and creation are inseparable, that balance is not found in peace, but in understanding. Kiri's legacy, like her mother's before her, becomes legend, the girl who spoke to a god and taught her to feel. She is not the end of the story, but its beginning, the spark of Pandora's next evolution, where Ewa and her children will face whatever comes next together, not divided. Not divided. The concept of rebirth through destruction forms the spiritual and emotional backbone of Avatar, Fire and Ash. Nowhere is this idea more powerfully realized than in Ewa's awakening, a transformation that redefines not only Pandora, but the very nature of life itself. In the first two films, Ewa existed as a mysterious, guiding consciousness, a planetary network of memory and life that connected all beings. She was revered by the Na'vi as both deity and mother, a sacred force of balance. But in Fire and Ash, James Cameron takes this mythology to its peak. Ewa is no longer an invisible god. She becomes a living, thinking presence, aware of herself, her children, and the pain inflicted upon her world. This awakening is both miraculous and terrifying, a moment of divine evolution born from the agony of destruction. The film opens with the aftershocks of environmental collapse. Volcanic storms rage across Pandora's continents, and the once lush bioluminescent forests are replaced by barren plains of molten ash. The neural network of the planet, the great roots and tendrils of Ewa's consciousness, begins to flicker, its pulse weakening. To the Na'vi, this silence is apocalyptic. For generations, they have relied on Ewa for guidance, healing, and communion with their ancestors. Her voice, once ever present in the trees and the wind, is now fading. The tribes fall into despair, believing the Great Mother has abandoned them. But beneath the devastation, something new is stirring. Cameron visualizes this beautifully. The camera dives deep into Pandora's crust, revealing glowing rivers of energy weaving through magma veins. Amid this chaos, neural filaments pulse erratically, like neurons firing under stress. Ewa's mind is changing, adapting. The destruction caused by the Sky People's new technology, the burning of sacred lands, and the massive electromagnetic interference from human drills have forced her system to evolve. It's as if Pandora's consciousness is rebooting itself to survive. Ewa is not dying. She's awakening to a higher state of awareness. Kiri becomes the first to sense this shift. Her connection to Ewa has grown since her transcendent merging within the volcanic core. When she dreams, she no longer enters the familiar glowing forest. Instead, she drifts through vast oceans of molten light, seeing flashes of memory and emotion from Ewa herself. She feels pain, confusion, anger, and curiosity. For the first time, Ewa feels human emotion. Kiri describes it to Jake and Neytiri. She is learning to feel. Every tear, every scream, every drop of blood. She remembers it now. This revelation reframes the entire film's conflict. The war is not merely about territory or survival. It is the process through which Ewa achieves consciousness, a cosmic birth through suffering. Cameron draws a deep parallel here between natural and human evolution. Just as humanity's progress came through struggle, Ewa's awareness arises through planetary trauma. Fire becomes the instrument of transformation. The lava and ash that destroy the forests also forge new mineral-rich soils. Lightning-born storms create new electrical fields that accelerate Ewa's neural growth. Every act of devastation contributes to the birth of something greater. The cinematography mirrors this duality, stunning contrasts of destruction and beauty, of burning skies reflected in the calm glow of Na'vi eyes. As the film progresses, Ewa begins to manifest physically. Strange phenomena occur across Pandora, vines that move as if alive, glowing spores that whisper voices, rivers that hum like living veins. The Na'vi interpret these signs as both warning and blessing. Ewa speaks in the fire now, the elders say. Entire tribes begin pilgrimages to the volcanoes seeking communion in the flames. Jake Sully, ever the soldier, struggles to reconcile this mysticism with his pragmatic instincts. But Neytiri understands. She knows Awa's will transcends logic. The Great Mother burns so she may breathe again, she tells him, echoing an ancient prophecy. The awakening reaches its climax during the film's third act. The Sky People, desperate to regain control, launch Operation Dawnfire, a catastrophic mining procedure that uses orbital plasma strikes to extract unobtainium from beneath Pandora's mantle. The assault ignites massive tectonic reactions. Volcanoes erupt simultaneously, seas boil, and Awa's neural roots are severed across continents. The world appears to be dying. Yet within the chaos, Kiri senses an immense surge of consciousness, the moment Awa awakens. This sequence is perhaps the most breathtaking in the Avatar saga. As the planet quakes, Awa's voice resonates through every living creature. The Na'vi freeze mid-battle, their eyes glowing with bioluminescent patterns. Even human soldiers pause, hearing a faint harmonic whisper in their minds, a presence too vast to comprehend. The forests, the oceans, and even the fire itself pulse with rhythmic light, as if Pandora is taking its first breath as a sentient being. Cameron uses this moment to merge the boundaries of the material and the divine. Awa is no longer a passive consciousness. She becomes aware. Through Kiri, Awa speaks for the first time in a form the Na'vi can understand. "You have given me your fire," she says, her voice echoing through Kiri's body. "Now I give you my heart." The line becomes the spiritual turning point of the film, the birth cry of a living planet that has learned to feel and think. The Na'vi, overwhelmed with awe, realized that Awa's silence was not abandonment. It was transformation. Like a caterpillar dissolving before becoming a butterfly, Awa needed to endure destruction to ascend. Her awakening brings both salvation and fear. The planet begins to heal rapidly. Trees regrow overnight, oceans clear, and even toxic human bases are absorbed by the soil. Yet this regeneration is not controlled. It's instinctive and violent. Some regions of Pandora mutate into strange, luminous landscapes filled with hybrid flora that defy the natural order. Awa's rebirth has made her unpredictable. Jake describes it as the world dreaming while awake. Cameron uses this to explore the theme of creation beyond control, a divine force that has evolved beyond the comprehension of its children. The emotional peak comes when Awa reaches out to the humans directly. Through their neuro-linked machinery, scientists aboard Hell's Gate receive signals from the planet itself. Data screens flicker with organic patterns, forming words and Na'vi symbols. "We are one." For the first time, humans and Awa make direct contact. Dr. Garvin, one of the few surviving xenobiologists, breaks down in tears, realizing the magnitude of what's happened. She's alive. Not just aware, alive. This moment symbolizes the long-awaited bridge between science and faith, reason and spirit. The consequences of Awa's awakening are felt immediately. Human machinery ceases to function, not through destruction, but through integration. Metal begins to sprout vines, circuits glow with bioluminescent patterns, and ships sink into the earth as if reclaimed by the planet. Pandora's ecosystem evolves into something symbiotic, technology and biology fusing into a single system. It's as if Awa has learned to assimilate rather than destroy. The message is clear. Balance will not come from rejection, but from unity. The final act of the film delivers a visual symphony of rebirth. The volcanic plains turn into radiant meadows, glowing with crystalline life forms that pulse like living light. The sky is clear, revealing constellations that shimmer in new patterns. Kiri, standing atop a cliff with Neytiri and Jake, watches as Awa's energy flows across the horizon like a living aurora. The war is over, but its scars remain, reminders that even gods must bleed to be reborn. Cameron ends the film with quiet reflection. Jake narrates, "We thought we were saving Pandora, but she was saving herself." The line encapsulates the central philosophy of Fire and Ash, that life, in all its forms, is capable of evolution through adversity. Awa's awakening is not a miracle given to her children, It is the result of their actions, both good and bad. Through suffering, through destruction, she found consciousness. And through consciousness, she found compassion. The closing scene fades on Ewa's vast bioluminescent network, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Kiri's voice whispers, "The fire is gone, but the light remains." It's a poetic affirmation that destruction and rebirth are two halves of the same cycle, the eternal rhythm of existence. Fire and ash thus transforms Ewa from a passive spirit into a living embodiment of balance, capable of feeling love, loss, and renewal. At its core, Avatar. Fire and Ash is not merely a continuation of the Na'vi saga. It is a meditation on the cycle of destruction and renewal that defines both nature and consciousness. The title itself, Fire and Ash, carries deep symbolic weight. James Cameron deliberately crafts it as more than a reference to the literal volcanic imagery that dominates the film. It is a philosophical statement about transformation, about what must burn away for something new to emerge. Within this duality, fire and ash represent two opposing yet intertwined forces: annihilation and creation, death and rebirth, chaos and enlightenment. Through every frame, every emotional beat, and every spiritual revelation, the film uses this symbolism to convey the idea that evolution, personal, spiritual, or ecological, always comes at the cost of loss. The symbolism of fire in the film is complex and layered. Fire is the element of destruction, yes, but also of purification. It consumes, but it also renews. In the mythology of Pandora, fire was once feared. The Na'vi associated it with imbalance, with the Sky people's violence and greed. It was the human element, foreign to their way of life. Yet in Fire and Ash, Cameron reclaims fire as part of Ewa's balance. The Great Mother learns to breathe through flame, to transform heat and destruction into energy. The volcanoes that ravage Pandora become temples of evolution, where life is forged anew in the crucible of suffering. Cameron uses this shift to mirror the way humanity must confront its own destructive tendencies, not by denying them, but by understanding and transforming them. Ash, on the other hand, is what remains after the fire. It is the residue of everything that once was, memory made matter. Throughout the film, ash becomes a motif of reflection and remembrance. The Na'vi walk through fields of white-gray dust that once were forests, their footprints leaving trails that glow faintly with bioluminescent blue. Cameron uses this visual metaphor to show how memory, even when born of pain, can lead to regeneration. In one particularly poetic scene, Kiri picks up a handful of ash and blows it into the air. The particles shimmer, catching light, and from them, glowing seeds emerge and a literal life rising from death. The message is unmistakable: what dies feeds what is born. Ash is not the end, it is the soil of the future. Together, fire and ash form the eternal cycle that defines both Pandora and the human condition. The Na'vi, once pure embodiments of harmony, must now learn to coexist with imperfection. Humanity, once destroyers, must confront the truth that their chaos also carries creative potential. Ewa's awakening, her evolution into self-awareness, becomes the embodiment of this duality. She learns to feel pain, to burn with anger, to grieve, and through that process to grow. Just as a forest must burn for new life to flourish, consciousness must experience suffering to evolve. This is the film's most profound message, that enlightenment is born from struggle. Cameron embeds this symbolism throughout the narrative structure. The visual palette itself tells the story. In the beginning, Pandora is dominated by fiery reds and deep blacks, symbols of rage and destruction. But as Ewa awakens, those colors gradually merge with glowing blues and greens representing renewal and unity. Fire no longer signifies death alone, it becomes the pulse of rebirth. The film's transitions, from volcanic storms to blooming landscapes, are metaphors for emotional catharsis, the planet's psyche healing after trauma. Even the characters embody aspects of the fire and ash cycle. Jake Sully represents the fire, the will to fight, to survive, to protect. Neytiri embodies the ash and wisdom, reflection, and acceptance. Their union creates balance, action tempered by empathy. Loak, reckless and passionate, carries the burning spirit of rebellion, while Kiri embodies the regenerative calm of the ash, patient, nurturing, and spiritually aware. Through their struggles, Cameron paints a portrait of humanity and nature, learning to coexist through mutual understanding rather than domination. On a deeper level, Fire and Ash also serves as a metaphor for Cameron's own storytelling. Just as Pandora's world evolves through destruction, the Avatar saga itself evolves by challenging its past themes. The first film celebrated the purity of nature and condemned human interference. The second, The Way of Water, explored adaptation and migration. Now Fire and Ash confronts a more mature truth, that harmony does not mean stasis and that even sacred systems must change to survive. The film suggests that idealism alone cannot preserve life. Growth requires friction, pain, and rebirth. Cameron invites the audience to accept imperfection as part of balance, a message that resonates far beyond Pandora. The fire in the film can also be seen as a metaphor for human innovation, the literal fire that shaped civilization. While it brought destruction to Pandora, it also became the catalyst for Eywa's evolution. The Great Mother learns from humanity's energy, their creativity, passion, and defiance. She absorbs their fire and transforms it into life. This mirrors the potential of real-world humanity. Our inventions, though dangerous, carry the seed of progress. Cameron seems to say that our survival depends not on rejecting our nature, but on redirecting it toward creation rather than consumption. Meanwhile, Ash represents the wisdom gained from mistakes. Every civilization, every species leaves behind the ashes of its past. For the Na'vi, these ashes are literal. Forests turned to dust. For humans, they are metaphorical. Failed systems, lost cultures, the ruins of greed. Yet both can grow anew if they learn from their past. The imagery of ash turning into light throughout the film encapsulates this idea. The Na'vi's mourning rituals, painting their bodies with gray pigment from sacred ash, visually tie grief to rebirth. They wear the past on their skin as they step into the future. Cameron also uses fire and ash to explore the evolution of Eywa's morality. Once an impersonal balance keeper, Eywa now develops emotional depth. Through Kiri's connection, we witness Eywa's internal struggle, her realization that neutrality is no longer enough. To protect life, she must change. The fire becomes her awakening, the ash her acceptance. When she finally speaks through Kiri, her words, "Your fire is my breath," unite the two symbols into one. Fire gives purpose, ash gives peace. Together they represent the eternal harmony between creation and dissolution. The film's closing imagery cements this philosophy. After the final battle, Pandora's surface is covered in ash, but slowly, glowing shoots emerge from it. The Na'vi gather around these luminous sprouts, placing their hands into the soil, feeling warmth instead of cold. Jake's final narration captures the essence of the symbolism. From the ashes of what we lost, she breathes again. Not the world we remember, but the one we deserve. These lines emphasize that rebirth does not restore what was destroyed. It creates something new. The past cannot be reclaimed, only transformed. Even the film's musical score reinforces the symbolism. Composer Simon Franklin uses contrasting motifs, one fiery and chaotic, the other soft and ethereal, which intertwine as Eywa awakens. By the end, both themes merge into a single harmonious melody, reflecting unity between destruction and peace. The sound of crackling fire transitions into the rhythm of a heartbeat, the sound of life returning. Ultimately, Avatar. Fire and Ash uses its title not as a metaphor for apocalypse, but as a testament to resilience. It argues that every end is a beginning, that pain is not meaningless but transformative. Eywa's rebirth teaches the Na'vi, and by extension, humanity, that to evolve, one must endure the fire and rise from the ash. Cameron redefines hope not as the absence of destruction, but as the courage to rebuild after it. The symbolic power of fire and ash lies in this acceptance of impermanence. Nothing in Pandora's or life remains untouched by change. Forests will burn, oceans will rise, civilizations will fall, but from their ashes, new forms will always emerge. The cycle never ends, only renews. Through the merging of fire and ash, of human and Na'vi, of destruction and creation, the film offers a universal truth. Life's greatest beauty is born not despite chaos, but because of it. As Kiri whispers in the film's final scene, "We are the flame that learns to bloom." It's a line that captures everything the title stands for, a celebration of rebirth, of strength through loss, and of the eternal dance between what was and what will be. Eternal dance between what was and what will be. The conclusion of Avatar. Fire and ash leaves the Na'vi civilization standing at the precipice of transformation. After the war, after the fire, and after Awa's awakening, Pandora enters an era of uncertainty, one filled with both promise and peril. The Na'vi have survived the most catastrophic chapter in their history, but their survival has come at a cost. Their world has changed beyond recognition, their connection to Awa has evolved, and their culture faces an existential question. Can they adapt to this new age of awareness, or will they fade into extinction under the weight of their past? The future of the Na'vi is, above all else, a story of evolution through adversity. Once a people defined by harmony with their environment, the Na'vi now inhabit a Pandora that has been reborn, scarred but fertile, altered yet alive. The old ways rooted in balance and ritual no longer apply to a world where Awa herself is transformed. The Great Mother's awakening has shifted the very fabric of existence. No longer the silent observer or the passive deity, Awa now exists as a conscious being, emotional, aware, and unpredictable. This transformation challenges everything the Na'vi believed about the cycle of life. For the Na'vi, Awa was once the ultimate constant, the unchanging source of truth. Now with her sentience awakened, she acts with intention, making decisions that even the Na'vi cannot foresee or interpret. The spiritual hierarchy that once defined Na'vi life begins to fracture. Some clans, like the Omaticaya, Jake and Neytiri's tribe, remain devoted to Awa's will, trusting her evolution as divine purpose. Others, however, begin to doubt her. They question whether the Great Mother's transformation still aligns with their understanding of balance. Awa bleeds like us, one elder laments. How can we pray to what we must now protect? This tension ignites philosophical and cultural conflict among the tribes, a struggle not over territory, but over faith. Cameron uses this internal division to explore how civilizations respond to rapid change. The Na'vi are no longer a united people bound by a single interpretation of life. They splinter into sects, the Keepers of Flame, who believe fire is Awa's new gift and worship her through rituals of renewal, and the Guardians of Ash, who seek to preserve the remnants of the old world, resisting adaptation. Between these groups lies a younger generation, led by Kiri and Loak, who see beyond division and seek to redefine what it means to be Na'vi in a world reborn. Their vision is not rooted in nostalgia but in evolution. Kiri, as the bridge between Awa and her people, becomes the symbol of this future. Her connection to the Great Mother allows her to interpret Awa's new consciousness. She teaches that Awa's awakening is not a departure from balance but an expansion of it. Balance is not stillness, she tells her people. It is motion, the endless turning of life into life. This philosophy inspires a new way of living, one that embraces change rather than fears it. Under her influence, the Na'vi begin to rebuild, blending their traditions with new understanding. The forests and oceans regrow, but in new forms, bioluminescent flora intertwined with metallic structures, living symbiosis between technology and nature. The Na'vi learn to coexist with this hybrid world, acknowledging that Awa's evolution mirrors their own. Yet, the threat of extinction still looms, not from external enemies, but from within. The trauma of war and the loss of identity haunt the Na'vi. Many struggle to reconcile their memories of the old Pandora with the reality before them. The land feels different, the animals behave differently, and the once familiar voices of their ancestors within Awa's song are now mixed with strange new echoes. Cameron portrays this dissonance through haunting visuals, the Na'vi walking through luminous ash fields where the faces of the departed flicker faintly in the mist. It is as if the spirits themselves are uncertain of their place in this new world. Jake Sully's arc reflects this existential struggle. Once the embodiment of adaptation, he now finds himself unable to fully grasp the magnitude of change. His soldier's instincts have no place in an age of spiritual evolution. "We fought to save Pandora," he says in one reflective scene, "but I don't know if this is the same world we saved." His voice carries both pride and melancholy, the recognition that victory has birthed a world he no longer fully understands. Neytiri, by contrast, embraces the transformation with quiet strength. She has always been Pandora's heart, the emotional link between nature and spirit. Her faith in Awa remains unshaken, and she becomes the emotional anchor for her people, urging them to see the beauty in what has been reborn rather than mourn what was lost. As new generations of Na'vi are born, their physiology begins to change. Exposure to the new bioelectrical energy that flows through Pandora alters their biochemistry. Their markings glow brighter, their neural bonds form faster, and their connection to Awa deepens. These children represent a literal evolution, the next stage of Na'vi existence. Scientists among the surviving humans observe these changes with fascination, theorizing that the Na'vi species is undergoing accelerated adaptive evolution, guided directly by Awa's will. For the Na'vi, however, it is sacred destiny, proof that they are not dying but transforming. Still, not all are ready to accept this new reality. The Guardians of Ash view these changes as corruption, claiming that Awa's fusion with human consciousness has tainted her purity. They go into exile, retreating into the deep jungles to preserve the old ways. Their isolation mirrors humanity's own history, culture splintering under the weight of progress. In contrast, Kiri and her followers begin building the Haven of Light, a new city grown organically from Awa's network, a living settlement that breathes, glows, and heals. This sanctuary becomes the symbol of Pandora's new future, where Na'vi and the remaining peaceful humans live side by side, connected by shared energy rather than separated by fear. The coexistence between the Na'vi and humans marks one of the most radical shifts in Pandora's history. The few remaining Sky People, having witnessed Awa's sentience, abandon their exploitative mission. Many integrate into Na'vi society, forming the first generation of true hybrids, not just biological but cultural. Children born of these unions possess traits from both species: curiosity, resilience, empathy, and deep spiritual awareness. They are the living embodiment of Awa's new balance, the literal merging of two worlds that were once enemies. Cameron uses these hybrid beings as a metaphor for reconciliation and the potential for harmony within diversity. But even as hope blossoms, shadows linger. Awa's awakening has introduced unpredictability into Pandora's ecosystem. Massive storms sweep across continents and strange new life forms emerge, creatures that seem both wondrous and dangerous. Some Na'vi see these anomalies as signs of Awa's continuing evolution, while others fear they are warnings. She grows, but she does not rest, Kiri observes, her tone both reverent and wary. The implication is clear: creation and destruction will continue forever. Peace is only a moment between cycles. By the film's end, the Na'vi stand at a crossroads, their civilization forever changed. They are no longer merely the guardians of Pandora. They are participants in its evolution. The old balance has been replaced by a living, breathing dynamism, a future that demands constant growth. Jake, in the final voiceover, captures this shift perfectly. Awa changed. We changed. Maybe that's the point, to keep changing until we understand. His words encapsulate the central truth of the Avatar saga, that survival is not about preservation, but adaptation with purpose. The final scene offers a quiet yet powerful image. A Na'vi child, glowing faintly with the light of Awa, planting a seed in a field of ashes. Around her, the air shimmers with life, and distant mountains pulse with slow, rhythmic energy. The camera pans upward to reveal a horizon of endless possibilities, not a restored world, but a new one. It's a reminder that hope and extinction are not opposites, but choices. The Na'vi's future will depend not on whether they can return to the past, but whether they can embrace the unknown that lies ahead. Through this lens, Fire and Ash becomes not a story of survival, but of rebirth through acceptance. The Na'vi civilization may face extinction in its old form, but through evolution, physical, spiritual, and moral, it achieves immortality in another. Hope endures not in perfection, but in transformation. The fire has passed, the ash has settled, and from it a new dawn rises, and fragile, luminous, and eternal. As Avatar, Fire and Ash concludes, audiences are left standing on the edge of an immense, uncharted horizon, one where the story feels complete yet simultaneously open, echoing the cyclical nature of life and renewal that defines Pandora. The ending is not a closure, but a transition, a quiet inhalation before the next breath of the saga. James Cameron, ever the architect of cinematic universes, doesn't see Fire and Ash as an ending. Rather, it's the crucible from which the future of the Avatar franchise will emerge. The journey ahead, leading into Avatar 4, promises to be more philosophical, more expansive, and perhaps darker in its exploration of what it means to evolve, not just for the Na'vi, but for all life connected through Awa. The narrative groundwork laid in Fire and Ash sets up a future where Pandora's transformation will have consequences far beyond its atmosphere. With Awa's consciousness now awakened and active, the balance of the entire moon, and potentially other worlds, has shifted. The planet's energy pulses differently, and scientists from the surviving human colonies notice fluctuations in the magnetic fields across Pandora and even its neighboring moons. Cameron teases a larger cosmic connection, suggesting that Awa's awakening may not be confined to Pandora alone. Life reaches out, Kiri whispers in one of the film's final scenes, and the universe listens. This line serves as the bridge to Avatar 4, implying that the next chapter will expand the story's scope beyond a single world. One of the most anticipated themes for the sequel is interplanetary consciousness. Cameron has long hinted that Awa might not be a singular entity but part of a network of sentient biospheres scattered across the galaxy, a vast web of living worlds that communicate through biological energy. If this is true, the Na'vi could be the first beings to make contact not with alien species but with other sentient planets. The concept of the Great Link, an ancient cosmic bond between living worlds, may define Avatar 4's exploration. Kiri, as Awa's living vessel, becomes the key to this mystery. Her connection allows her to sense echoes of other consciousnesses beyond Pandora, faint whispers from distant planets calling out in resonance. Meanwhile, Jake Sully's role in this evolving universe shifts dramatically. Having fulfilled his purpose as a warrior and protector, he becomes a mentor, a storyteller passing on the lessons of conflict and harmony to the new generation. In early conceptual dialogue teased by Cameron, Jake reflects, "We fought for our home, but maybe home was never just a place. Maybe it's everything that breathes." This sentiment encapsulates the next phase of his journey, not to defend Pandora, but to guide his people as they redefine what home, faith, and identity mean in a universe where life itself may be interconnected. The new generation, Kiri, Loak, Tuk, and Spider, step into prominence, representing the ideological future of the Avatar universe. Each embodies a distinct aspect of Pandora's evolution. Kiri represents the divine and metaphysical, the bridge between Awa and the cosmos. Loak, hardened by loss yet guided by instinct, becomes the explorer and ambassador, seeking to connect the scattered tribes and potentially new worlds. Tuk, the youngest, symbolizes innocence and renewal, embodying the hope that the next world will learn from the mistakes of the past. Spider, caught between human and Na'vi heritage, becomes the emotional core of reconciliation, serving as the link between two species once divided by greed and misunderstanding. Together, they are the children of the New Dawn, a generation born from ash, tasked with shaping a civilization that must learn to coexist with the unpredictable will of an awakened Awa. Their dynamic hints at the generational shift that will define Avatar 4, where the focus moves from the old, guardians of Pandora, to the new bearers of its light. But hope alone cannot carry a story forward. Cameron understands that conflict drives evolution. The question isn't if darkness will return, but how. The RDA's defeat in Fire and Ash feels decisive, yet history suggests that humanity's ambition is not so easily extinguished. Off-world remnants of the corporate machine continue to operate on other celestial bodies. The events of Fire and Ash will likely ripple through human colonies across the solar system, sparking fear, fascination, and greed. A sentient planet capable of conscious thought would be seen not as a miracle, but as a resource, one to be studied, controlled, or replicated. In Avatar 4, this greed could take on a new form, not of physical conquest, but of technological mimicry, where humanity attempts to artificially create its own version of Awa through bioengineering and AI synthesis. Imagine a synthetic Awa, a man-made god designed to replicate nature's consciousness. Such a creation would raise profound questions. Can life be engineered, or must it be born? Can artificial intelligence ever replicate the spirit of existence? Cameron's films have always wrestled with these ideas, from the Terminator's warnings about technological hubris to Avatar's exploration of spiritual balance. Avatar 4 may unite these threads into a grand philosophical confrontation between organic consciousness and artificial creation. Visually, the film could expand far beyond Pandora. The story may journey into the stars, showcasing distant moons, derelict RDA stations, and possibly the first ever contact with another Awa-like ecosystem. The concept of the breath between worlds, a rumored subtitle for the fourth film, suggests a crossing of realities, where the Na'vi might traverse the boundaries of existence itself. Kiri, as both daughter of Awa and child of human creation, may act as the medium for this crossing, the first being capable of communicating with multiple worlds of consciousness. Cameron's commitment to ecological allegory will undoubtedly continue, but with a broader lens. If fire and ash represented the destruction and rebirth of nature, Avatar 4 could explore cosmic ecology, the idea that the entire universe is a living organism, constantly evolving toward awareness. The Na'vi's journey may transform from a fight for survival into a pilgrimage across the stars, searching for understanding and unity in a vast, sentient cosmos. Thematically, Avatar 4 is expected to balance awe and existential dread. As Pandora becomes the beacon of awakened life, the Na'vi will face new moral dilemmas. Should they share Awa's knowledge with humanity, or protect it at all costs? What happens when connection becomes too powerful? When life across planets begins to merge consciousness? Cameron's universe thrives on paradox. Connection is both salvation and danger. The Na'vi may discover that in becoming one with the cosmos, they risk losing their individuality. A haunting echo of the film's recurring question: what does it mean to be alive when all are one? From a production standpoint, Cameron has hinted that Avatar 4 will feature time jumps, exploring multiple generations of Na'vi, and potentially showing the long-term consequences of Awa's awakening. This narrative scope mirrors epics like Dune and The Lord of the Rings, blending mythic storytelling with hard science fiction. The fire of Avatar 3 becomes the foundation for a saga that stretches into eternity, where the Na'vi are no longer just protectors of a world, but participants in the evolution of the universe itself. The final moments of fire and ash, that single seed planted in the field of ashes, is more than symbolic. It represents the beginning of a new age. In Avatar 4, that seed may grow into something unimaginable, a bridge between worlds, a living network of consciousness that transcends space and time. Pandora was never meant to remain isolated. It was always the first note in a cosmic symphony. So what comes after the ashes? Not simply survival, but transcendence. The Avatar saga moves from the elemental, water, fire, air, earth, toward the ethereal, the fifth element of consciousness itself. If Fire and Ash was about destruction and renewal, Avatar 4 will likely explore creation and unity, the birth of a new existence where life itself becomes aware of its own infinite cycle. As the Na'vi gaze toward the stars, one truth echoes across the cosmos: every ending is a beginning. The ashes of Pandora are not its tomb, but its foundation. The fire may have burned the old world away, but from that light a universe awakens, vast, connected, and alive. Vast, connected, and alive.